So, um, there are more than 10 levels, but this is like the introductory bit. It just gives you these 10. And look, hexagons! The rules are the same as most Minesweeper games. Tiles that share a side are neighbours. Numbers tell how many neighbours have mines. Right click to flag mines. So this cell has one mine in its surrounding neighbours. It's got to be this one because that's the only one that isn't already flagged. And if you get it right, you win. If you get it wrong, you lose. I will demonstrate what losing looks like. You have uncovered a mine. You may reset, go back to choose a new puzzle, or click here to undo. So unlike some Minesweeper games, if you make a mistake, you can just carry on. However, the game remembers if you made a mistake, and the level in the menu will be highlighted blue if you beat it first try, and if you didn't beat it first try, it won't be highlighted blue. So you really want to try and beat everything first try, which means no guessing. You've got to use the logic that's available on the board. So here we have this one. There's two cells next to it that could be the mine, but we can figure out which one it is because of the 3. It tells us there's got to be 3. That allows us to clear these ones. And yeah, this is obviously a very easy level. We will get to harder levels soon, don't worry. There are 100 normal levels in this game, and then there are another 100 or so bonus levels, which are some of the hardest logic puzzles I've ever played ever. So one other thing that the game gives you, this little number in the corner here that is currently showing 0, that tells you how many mines you haven't selected yet. So there's 12 in total in the level. If I mark everywhere that I know there is a mine, I get 0 up here, which means there are no more left, which means I know both of these squares are safe. So here, this is the only game I've seen that has grids like this. This is very unconventional for a Minesweeper game. We have this nice octagon square tiling. And it does get quite difficult to count how many neighbours a cell has when the neighbours are different shapes like this. And one of the nice things that this game does do is once you've marked all the neighbours to a cell, it dims the number. So you see here there's 2. If I mark that one, the 1 is now dimmed because I've completed it. Same with that 3. So that's kind of good for seeing what it is you should be paying attention to next. To think of it here now. So there's 5 here. I've already marked 4, and there's got to be a 5th one there. So that cell is safe. That gives me the information I need to mark the other one. The 3rd one is there, so I can do that. Both of those. By the way, I hope the clicking noise isn't too loud. There's no music in this game, so all you get is that little clicking noise. I might turn it down a little bit. Oh wow. We're getting our second raid of the day already. Been here half an hour. Well, hello, 53 New Wave. So good to see you. Welcome in Plouk, welcome in Grimsol and Moonchild Dreams. 53 New Wave, did you forget to give your viewers a raid message? Because they're all typing insert raid message. Everybody, please do click that little heart that's popped up on your screen, unless, of course, you're already following them, in which case don't click the heart because that would unfollow. And why would you want to do that? 53 New Wave are a couple of streamers. There are 2 of them, and they are both awesome. And they play all sorts of stuff. They recently played Dwarf Romantic. I might have been involved with that decision on account of I gifted them the game on Steam. They also tried Celeste soon after I did. But I think their speciality is things like Dark Souls. And they also do, they compose music sometimes. They are such cool people to hang out with. I didn't get to drop into your stream today. I was with my parents all afternoon. I only opened Twitch once just to peek into Ophelia's stream. Other than that, I haven't been on. So you let me know what you were streaming and how it went. I see your category was just set to just chatting. So I don't know if you were actually chatting for 5 hours or if you got some gameplay in there. Moonchild Dreams says, actually, we are such pro streamers that's our actual raid message. Well, I'm very impressed. 53 New Wave says, I don't even know how it works. They used to my enormous ignorance. Now, that is simply not true. You are not ignorant in any degree, enormous or not. Let me give Moonchild a flower. There we go. A round-leaved wintergreen. Isn't that a lovely name? 53 New Wave says, I found Dwarf Romantic to be more challenging than Elden Ring. Yeah, it's... especially the hard mode is a legitimately difficult puzzle game. And there's not many people out there who can get a good score on hard mode. So that is nothing to be ashamed of. You know, me and Ophelia probably make it look easy because we've played it many times before. Liger Rhymes with Tiger says, that's an ego boost for me then. I guess you've also been playing Dwarf, Liger. Ophelia says, Dwarf Romantic is a Souls game. That, which month was it? Was it November? That month where you were always on the verge of losing, that was a horror game, that monthly mode. I love and hate it, says Ophelia. Oh, no, yeah, September, that's right. Well, hopefully more love than hate, Ophelia. I know that's not a word you use lightly. Obviously, if you ever get to the point that Dwarf isn't fun, don't feel you have to keep playing it just for us. We would be happy to watch you play anything. Liger says, yep, lots of Dwarf, won't touch a Souls like though. Yeah, I'm the same, that kind of game. Like, it's not that I don't have anything against those games. I have a lot of respect for people who are good at them. They're just not my thing personally. But this is a more conventional Minesweeper grid, and they actually give you this little symbol in the corner, this little yellow symbol with 4 arrows. That tells you that cells diagonally adjacent to each other are considered adjacent. And you might wonder, why is it bothering to tell you that? Well, later in the game, there are square grids where diagonals are not considered adjacent, which, as somebody who's used to seeing patterns in Minesweeper, can actually be very difficult to reason with. And it's very easy to make mistakes on those levels. 53 New Wave says, Dwarf is a very fun game. We both love it. I'm glad to hear that. I've introduced quite a lot of people to Dwarf, I think, over the years. And I've also met a lot of my favourite streamers through Dwarf, just through browsing the Dwarf Romantic category and seeing who's playing. Obviously, Ophelia is one of those people, but there are many other people I met that way. There was Alice Sitz, there was Rapmost. Who else did I? Richard and the Flowers, I think I met through browsing the Dwarf category as well, and a few others who don't stream anymore, but I met them that way. Blushing Sunshine. So yeah, my advice would be, if you want to meet cool, interesting streamers, browse the Dwarf Romantic category. Oh, Hazel, hello, welcome in. Thank you for redeeming your flower. The bot is broken, but fortunately we have mods to do it for us. Let me do a shout out to Hazel because she is the most awesome person. I know I say that about everyone, but well, there are only two streamers who have sent me postcards that are on my streamer shelf, and one of those is Vertsky, and the other one is Hazel. So they are both very special to me. Flisklet says illegal man says hello to illegal woman. Well, hello, Flisklet. If you're saying that you're a trans man, fun fact: the UK Supreme Court ruling, they didn't rule on the definition of man, only on the definition of woman. So trans men actually have all the rights they had before. It's only trans women who've had their rights taken away, which is kind of strange. And I'm sure they will correct that as soon as they remember that trans men exist. But hello, Flisklet. Good to see you. We should probably do this level, shouldn't we? This is a bit of an interesting level. It's introducing a new mechanic. These numbers to the left of the rows. This is something that Hex Cells has as well. So it's telling you how many mines there are in that whole row. So within these hexes there are 4. Within these hexes there are 3. And we also know that there's 10 in total, which means that there's 3 in this bottom row as well. With all these wands here, the only possible way there can be 4 is like that. Otherwise, the wands would have 2 mines next to them. And the only way there can be 3 is like that. So we know that, and then we know this is 3 as well. And that sort of pattern will come up a lot in future levels. El Tibago says, Emma, have you had a look at Blueprints? Seems interesting. First person free roaming roguelike adventure puzzle game. I mean, no. Where's Blowhigh? Okay, Blowhigh is also broken. Apparently. What should have happened there is a giant shark should have come across the screen. So I'm terribly sorry that it didn't. Thank you, Matcha, for redeeming Blowhigh. Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting, Tibago. Certainly the fact that it says puzzle in your description automatically appeals to me. Tibago actually typed fist person. I'm not quite sure what that would be as a video game, but yes, first person free roaming roguelike. I will definitely add that to my list of possibilities, Tibago. Thank you so much for recommending it. Give me a few seconds here while I hop over to Steam and see whether it's whether it's on Steam, B, whether it's on sale. Okay, it is on sale, but it's only 10% off. Okay. Yeah, it's getting good reviews, and as you say, it's that type of game. Yeah, thank you, Tibago. I will bear that one in mind. Let me stick it on my wish list, actually, so I don't forget. It exists, as I easily forget these things. Narcissistic says, I haven't made it to illegal status yet, but apparently I'm unable to date or pay taxes. I sure would like a refund for the last few decades across the pond. I mean, not being able to pay taxes sounds like the government's problem, not yours. But yes, you're in Florida, aren't you? Florida in particular. I mean, it's difficult to make generalizations about the United States as a whole because there are 50 states and they all have different laws about these things. But Florida in particular has been extremely bad lately. Flisklet says, I'm being forced to bring my birth certificate so I can register to vote / get my legal ID, and if it doesn't match all my other identifications, I'll be removed from the voter rolls / declared ineligible for my disability. I absolutely love it. Interesting. Yeah, so the process, and I don't know if this has changed because it's a while since I did it, but I was already. It probably still works this way, but certainly the way it used to work in the UK is your local authority sends each household a form, and you have to write down all the people who live there and whether they're eligible to vote, i.e. are they a British citizen or a Commonwealth citizen or a EU citizen. You also have to put their date of birth so that if they're not eligible to vote, they know when you become eligible to vote, and they use the same list for jury service. So registering to vote is the same as registering for jury service. So if you're over 70, you don't have to do jury service. And so I was already on the electoral register. At some point, my parents must have put me on there. And so when I moved into my own house, I had to tell them about my change of address. And when I changed my name, I had to tell them about my change of name. The UK electoral roll doesn't record gender, so I didn't have to tell them that it had changed. I don't know if I was starting from the beginning trying to enroll in the register, whether I'd have to provide ID and then the gender problem would come up. I don't know about that. But being on the register already and then transitioning, like, you just don't tell them your gender has changed. Like, if they want to think I'm still male but called Emma, then they can think that as long as they let me vote. Anyway, I forgot to tell you about the mechanic of this level. You'll notice there are now 3 numbers in the corner, and 2 of them are coloured. So what it's telling you is that the coloured cells have that many mines in. You can see here it says there's 3 mines in the red cells and 2 mines in the blue cells. Well, and obviously it's all those. And then there's 4 other ones, which can be those. So there will be a lot of colourful levels showing up. L.T. says, I'm hoping we can encourage burly, bearded trans men across the country to start using women-only spaces. Yeah, so this is the interesting thing. I use the term interesting loosely. Again, the Supreme Court only ruled on the definition of woman, not on the definition of man. So, as it stands, trans women are not allowed to use female-only spaces anymore. But trans men are still allowed to use male-only spaces. And my recommendation to them, if they look male, would be that they continue to use the male-only spaces for their own safety. But yes, at some point, someone is going to force the courts to consider the fact that trans men do actually exist and have them define what man means. And, you know, all this talk about cis women feeling unsafe because there are trans women sharing the toilets with them. If they rule the same way about trans men, i.e. they say it's based on biological sex, forcing trans men to use the women's restroom, even if, as Tibago says, you know, they have facial hair and muscles and so on and look male, that's gonna make women feel less safe, not more. And if they rule the other way, so this is the interesting part. If they do get asked to rule on the definition of man and they rule the other way, as in, woman depends on your sex assigned at birth, but man depends on your gender identity. The problem then is they've just ruled that the Equality Act protects against discrimination based on sex assigned at birth, not discrimination based on acquired gender. But that ruling would be treating men and women based on sex assigned at birth differently, because male assigned at birth would not be allowed to use gendered spaces matching their gender identity, but female assigned at birth would be. So then somebody would be able to have to take it to court that the Supreme Court ruling itself is in breach of the Equality Act. Now, whether any of that will actually happen, or whether they'll just stick their heads in the sand and deny that trans men exist forever, I don't know. One possibility is simply that at the next election or the one after, Reform get into power, and then they just abolish the Equality Act anyway, which is what they were always intending to do. And then neither trans men nor trans women will have rights. We can hope that that doesn't happen, but Americans hoped that Trump wouldn't win, and look where we are now. So it's impossible to say. I'm not a legal expert. It's impossible to say exactly what will happen. But yeah, the situation as it exists as of this weekend, it may change in the near future, is that trans men and trans women have completely different rights. Because, it's... The only reason this is being debated at all is because of the TERFs pushing the whole protecting women angle. And interestingly, if you actually poll people about trans rights, women support trans women's rights to use gendered spaces more than men do by about 20 percentage points. So, it's not actually about protecting women at all. Narcissistic says, autism has entered the chat now while people are being disappeared. It's wild times, but we keep fighting. We don't. Or at least I don't. I'm tired and have no will to fight. I am merely an observer to all this nonsense that's going on, I'm afraid. Apologies if anyone was hoping I was going to fight, but I don't have the energy to. Narcissistic says, I support cis women militantly protecting trans women that choose to resist. It's starting to happen here. TERF ideology is sufficiently widespread here that I don't think that will happen. Obviously, there are cis women who feel strongly about that sort of thing in favour of trans women. But they are the silent majority, not the ones making all this fuss. Right, this is an interesting little situation we have here. And I should, if I just move my, face cam a moment, just to show you that down here in the bottom left there is a drawing tool. If I click this, I can actually draw lines on the puzzle, which I will need as they get more difficult. And I do want to say I'm very grateful to this game for including a drawing tool. I will keep my face cam here so you can see the level name and number. But yeah, when you see a funny thing pop up above my face cam, I'm using the built-in drawing tool. There've been a lot of games like The Witness where I felt the need to draw on screen and haven't been able to. So yay, now I can. So we know that there are 3 mines left. One of them's got to be here, and 2 of them have got to be here. 2 of these 3 cells. That accounts for all 3. So therefore, we know that this cell is empty. So that's the kind of logic you have to reason through. So once we've done that, the whole thing just kind of solves itself. There we go. If this clip says trans men are unicorns, there's a horn joke in there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. So there are more trans women than trans men, but realistically, both groups are incredibly small relative to the amount of media attention they keep getting. But it's more that the moral panic that TERFs try to start is only directed at trans women, and they barely acknowledge that trans men exist at all. And then we end up with this stupid situation, because there's obviously, no matter how pro or anti-trans you want to be, given that you have already in law a framework that requires gender discrimination in the UK is completely legal and always has been. Discrimination based on sex isn't legal, but on gender is. Given that you already have this framework for not allowing discrimination based on sex, there's absolutely no reason to treat trans women and trans men differently. Like, even if your way of treating them the same is to ban both of them from existing, there's no real reason, legally speaking, to treat them differently. And you don't expect the TERFs to understand that, but the fact that the Supreme Court didn't seem to understand that is a little bit worrying. Like, these are supposed to be the country's top legal experts, so the fact that they missed these things is a bit worrying. And it's also, frankly, disgusting, the response of the UK's Equality and Human Rights Commission, who, again, you'd think they would be experts on, equality and human rights, saying that, basically they completely agree with all of this. Trans people don't deserve to use women's spaces. And their proposed solution is trans people should use their powers of advocacy. That was the exact quote. This is from the chairwoman of the Equality and Human Rights Commission in the UK. He said trans women should use their power of advocacy to persuade organisations to install unisex facilities. So I, as a trans person, if I want to use the bathroom, the official advice for what I'm supposed to do if I don't want to use the men's bathroom is persuade the private business that I want to visit that they should install unisex facilities for me. It goes without saying that's not the most practical advice. Right, let's get the pen out again. So there are 2 mines in this area, and there is 1 mine in this area, and that accounts for all 3. So we know that there's nothing in any of that. We also know that there's nothing here. So now we can see that there are 2 in this area. So we can see that there's 1 here. We also know that there's going to be 1 here. And so we can kind of just fill in based on that now. We know that's empty. We know there's 1 there, and then we know there's 1 there. Altibago says, the ruling is really dumb because you could also be asked to leave male-only spaces if somebody feels uncomfortable. So that is actually technically true, yes. It is legal, sort of, to refuse to let trans people use any of your gendered facilities, whether they're male or female. Of course, realistically, that's only going to be enforced against non-passing trans people. Narcissistic says, I'm sorry all of this is happening, Emma. Truly, this is a nightmare. You're more women than TERFs will be. I mean, it's worse where you are, Narcissistic. Trust me. But yes, it's a problem. So this, I mentioned before, there were square grid levels where diagonals are not adjacent. This is 1. You'll notice in the corner up here, we don't have the little yellow arrow. And so, for example, this 1 here, it could be this one, it could be this one, it could be this one, it could be either of these. But it can't be this one, or this one, because they're only diagonally adjacent. We also have some squares bigger than others, which can make it a little different to count the neighbours. Like this 4, for example, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 neighbours. Lescott says, cis women are being asked to leave women's spaces because people think they're trans. Yeah, this is the thing. There are far more non-feminine looking cis women in the world than there are trans women. Like, orders of magnitude more. So if you see somebody in public and you think, oh, they look like they might be trans, they're almost certainly not. Like odds are, like unless they've got a pink, white, and blue flag on their shirt or something, they're probably just a cis woman. And of course, I don't need to tell anyone here any of that because you're not bigots. You all know how to treat people with respect. I don't need to tell you how to do it. But yeah, unfortunately, there are people out there who do need telling. Right, let me just focus on this for a moment. Yeah, so normally, like in Minesweeper, if you see a 1 at the edge like this, you'd think, oh, it's one of these two. But it's not, because this one's diagonal, so it's actually always that one. Same with this 2, it can't be that one, so it's that one. 4, so it's one of these two, which means it's not that one or that one, which means it's that one. That's going to be that one. Oops, no, Emma did it wrong. Right, you see when I did it wrong, the level number and name in the corner here, which was blue, this is now changed to white. So if I finish the level, let me go ahead and finish the level anyway. That, and then that, and then two of those. That. If I go back to the menu, here's the full menu. Now we can see all the levels. Every other level I've done got filled in blue, but this one was only filled in white. And that basically says you finished the level, but you made a mistake during it. I will try to do all the levels without mistakes, but I might have to drop that goal at some point when they get too hard. We'll see. So I'll just quickly try and do this one again. Without screwing up this time, Emma. You idiot. Hello, Sarah with the stars. Thank you for dropping in. I see that you're having a shower, so you've probably already gone because I'm behind with chat. But it's great to have you here, Sarah, and I hope you're having a good Easter weekend. To do this wrong this time. That one, which means both of those. That one, and that one. So that one. Yeah, it's the diagonals not being adjacent, which really gets me on these levels. Sarah, thank you for dropping in. Hello, Lucas, as well. Lucas says, since we have two separate identification rules, it should be possible to have both or none applied to oneself. I wonder what happens in those cases. Yeah, it isn't. You're right. Yes, if people were free to identify as whatever they want, then there should be an option to identify as neither male nor female, which I'm sure many non-binary people would wish to use that option. But there isn't. There has never been any recognition of non-binary people within UK law. Will there ever be? Maybe. Who can say? El Tibago says, streamer not stinky WTF. In reference to Sarah Stars having a shower. Well, it's because she's not streaming at the moment, Tibago. Obviously, if she was streaming, she wouldn't have a shower. Right. Oh, I see what I need to do. This 5 here, these 3 have to be mines because only 2 of these can be, which means actually neither of these are. And then one of these has to be. Yeah. Now we have to use this. Hang on. Let me put the pen color back to something you can see clearly, like green. We use this blue 2 now. One of these has to be a mine, and also one of these has to be a mine, and that accounts for the 2. So we can clear all of those, and we can actually mark these because we know only one of these is a mine. 2, 4. Do that. And then, okay, now we have only 2 red ones on mine. 5 in total. Hang on, let me do some more counting. There's five mines remaining in total. One of them is there. 2 of them are here. So that's 3. There's a 4th one here. And then there's got to be a 5th one here, because this has got to be 4 in this row. So those are the places where the mines are, which means that these cells are all completely safe. And in fact, because there's 1 here, and this is 4, the second one has to be there. We can do that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that. Narcissistic says, I get it, I just have enough passing privilege that I feel I have to, not sure how to explain the need. No, I completely get it, Narcissistic, I completely get it. Lucas says, is this Extreme Minesweeper? So this is a Minesweeper type game. There are many such games out there. I personally think this is one of the best, because it has a variety of different shapes and designs of levels, different shaped tiles. And I'm always a fan of anything that has hexagons in. And I think the levels are very well designed as well. But I've played many other Minesweeper type games, and I may well stream other ones in future. I'll just drop a Steam link into chat so that people can see. It's only £2.50 on Steam, so very reasonably priced. Is it extreme? I mean, there are custom levels in regular Minesweeper, so you can make it as easy or hard as you want. This definitely starts off easy and gets very, very, very hard towards the end. So you could certainly call it Extreme Minesweeper. That would be an appropriate label to apply to this game. Sarah Stars says, whereas I've been working at a hospital with 1 disabled toilet in the dispensary that anyone can use because it's disabled and not gendered for over 2 decades. Yes, so in places that have disabled toilets, obviously they can't stop a trans person from using that. I don't think I've ever seen separate male and female disabled toilets. Although I don't think there's any law against having it that way. I don't like that because of the implication that being trans is a disability. Like, obviously, I don't have any problem with non-disabled people using the disabled toilet as long as they're not cutting in front of a disabled person who needs to use it. But yeah, if it becomes a legal requirement that as a trans person you have to use disabled facilities because they're the only non-gendered facilities available, then that is effectively legal enforcement of trans people being considered to have a disability, and I disagree with that. I think gender identity is a normal part of human experience, and the idea that everybody falls into one of 2 narrowly defined gender identities is the unnatural part, not the existence of trans people. Liger Runs for Tiger says if that's their solution, they should make it law that unisex bathrooms exist. Yeah, and they don't. There, at one point, there was a push. I'm talking sort of 10 years ago now. There was like suggestions that, oh yeah, new buildings should have, like new public buildings, like schools and hospitals and stuff, should have non-gendered facilities. That has been completely reversed now. I don't mean now as in this ruling. This was a couple of years ago. But the law now is that new buildings have to have gendered facilities. It is actually a requirement. So you can't, by law, only have non-gendered facilities. Have we had 3 raids today? We have been very, very lucky with that. Hello, Rooney. Thank you so much for raiding in. I'm definitely going to have to catch up with chat here because I want to say hi to the Raiders, so I'm going to pause the game one moment. For those who've just joined us, we're playing a game called Tametsi. This is a logic puzzle. It's basically Minesweeper, but more interesting. But my chats are talking about trans rights, which you can understand why. Sarah Star says most people are fine with non-gendered bathrooms. Disabled people have been showing just fine for decades. Yes, absolutely. The silent majority of people are fine with it. The people who make a noise and get into the media and bring court cases and vote for reform and so on are not fine with it, unfortunately. Liger says leaving it to the oppressed to advocate to individual businesses is ludicrous. Yes, I agree, but that's what the UK Equality and Human Rights Commission have said. That is their official position, is that it's up to trans people to advocate for their own rights if they want them. Narcissistic says, worse or not, you deserve better. Narcissistic says, I'm cis with PCOS, I have to shave my beard and stash shaves. As that. Yes, so as I say, there are many more masculine-looking cis women in the world than there are trans women. And yeah, PCOS is one of many reasons why that might be the case. And yeah, people need to understand that hormones are complicated and gender is complicated and genetics are complicated and there are intersex people and there's all these reasons why the binary solution doesn't fit everyone. Sarah Star says my stink is not really eradicated by showers. I'm filthy inside and out. Oh dear, Sarah. Tofu, hello Tofu. Sorry, I didn't even know you were here. Thank you so much for gifting all those subs. Right, I'm going to speed run the chat. No, put the game away. We're going to speed run the chat. Okay. Flisklet says, not sure if I should be jealous or not. I grow a little and just get rid of it because it's like, nope, not even enough to shave. I can just tweeze it. My pathetic facial hairs. Yeah, whereas I have the opposite problem. My facial hair is incredibly thick and dark and consistent. And I would really rather it wasn't there. LT Bago says, honestly, half the cis women I've dated would get transvestigated. I like tomboys. Narcissistic says, I'll grow it out and donate it. Little high five for the Shaving Women Club. Yeah, this is... I mean, I don't even bother engaging with this point because it's just like... It's normal for cis women to have hair. Like, the idea that a woman should be completely hairless, I think, is pushed by people who are attracted to women who are so young that they don't have that hair, which I think is a very, very problematic thing, as I won't go into it. Narcissistic says, I wish I was a tomboy. I would save hours getting ready to leave the house. How have you been? Yeah, having obviously experienced both sides of gender presentation, it does take me an awful lot longer to get out of the house now that I present feminine. Although a lot of that is just psyching myself up to be brave enough to go, or poking at my hair endlessly because I don't like how it looks. So completely get that, narcissistic. LT Bago says, busy, still spending most of my time at my mum's. She's much better but needs a lot of help. Hope you've been okay. Yes, Tibago, I do hope your mum is doing okay. Oh god, level 2 hype train. What is this? There's bits flying everywhere. I will get to that in just a second. Lucas says, Lucas already found it and wishlisted it. Yay! I'm so happy when people decide to play the games that I stream because, it's one thing for people to watch the stream or lurk in the stream, but if they actually enjoy the game so much they play it themselves, I see that as a victory. Tibago says, I saw somebody playing Extreme Wordle the other day. 64 Wordles all at the same time. I'm sorry, what? Okay, I'll have to see that at some point. Narcissistic says, spinning out and fighting the good fight, but I've got a great new therapist I click with. I hope you're enjoying all the mum time. Thank you so much for sharing that, Narcissistic, and I'm so glad that you found a good therapist. And yes, Ruby, best Ruby, bestest, best Ruby of the best rubies. Hello. At some point when you raided, my mods would have popped up a little follow thing, so people hopefully followed you because you are awesome. If you've not had the pleasure of watching a Ruby stream before, she's a big fan of point-and-click adventure games. And so we definitely have some overlap, us two, in our love of puzzles, but the puzzles that she plays tend to take a slightly different form. I met Ruby through Scrabble, which is something she plays, but not on stream. And she is always so chill and so fun to hang out with. She is on the west coast of the US, so our time zones do not always align, and she's usually live 3 a.m. my time, but not always. As you see today, she did manage to make it here in sociable hours for the UK, and I very much appreciate that, Ruby. I hope you're having a great day. Gotta take those little wins, says Teabago. Yes. And yes, Tofu. That's another raid. Okay, I'm clearly not speedrunning chat fast enough. Rooney, hello. You are our 4th raid today, and we're only an hour into the stream. I thank you so much to everybody who raided today. Thank you, Tofu, for the gift subs to Kaiser Podge, Skylarker, Mere Toogs, Clara Sprout, and Wildflower. Best Wildflower, I got a sub. Yay! And Kaiser was here earlier, so hopefully they see that sub. Tofu, thank you so much for all of that, and thank you to everybody who cheered bits while that hype train was going on. Harry, 200 bits, LTBago, 500 bits, Alex, 100 bits, and Kaiser, 100 bits. Thank you so much for all of that. That means a lot to me. And hello, edub, E__dub, to use your full name. Good evening to you too. I hope you're having a great Easter weekend. Narcissistic says, most of my prepping to leave the house is picking out the perfect set of really weird earrings. I love that, Narcissistic. Yes, I don't wear earrings, but I do have my headbands with the little scrunchie at the back. And sometimes I spend quite a long time picking out the right one of those to wear as well. So I get it, definitely. Flisket says the irony of the situation is being a trans man who still wears dresses because the comfort and ease. I agree. Comfort and ease are definitely factored with dresses. And it went from taking me an hour to get dressed to 5 minutes of throwing on clothes. The complete difference of prep time is incredible. Yes. Mavis Moonlight, hello. Thank you so much for redeeming your first ever flower of the day. And I'm very sorry that our bot isn't working. And Harry is having to give out the flowers manually, and he's doing a great job of it. Thank you, Harry. You have a lesser spearwort as your first ever wildflower. And hello to the Rooney Raiders. Hello, Rooney. Hello, Harrican. Hello, Harry. I think Harry has been on 3 of the 4 raids we've had today. Hello, Raven Federtier. And thank you so much for the follow as well, Raven. Very good to see you. That says so many raiders. I know, right? Hi, Gertrude, says Raven. Yes, hi, Raven. Thank you to everybody who redeemed their flowers, and to Harry for dispensing them. The hype train is complete at level 3. I have unlocked a new hype train emote. The respectfully no emote. So there we go. Everybody share emotes that you unlocked if you got them. And Raven redeeming your first flower of the day as well. A hoary whitlow grass. Hoary in this context, by the way, means hairy, not promiscuous. As in covered in very fine hairs, and something is hoary. Mavis says, much love and hugs to your wonderful, so sending my support over. Been a while, so got the power chat. Oh, you got the power chat. That's wonderful news, Mavis. I did see your messages in the Discord before. That is wonderful news, and I do hope your health improves now as a result of that. And yes, enjoy your flower. Every stream, to help celebrate the fact that I'm a botanist and I love flowers. Every stream you can come here and get a different British wildflower and slowly build up a little wildflower garden. And if you come here every stream like Harry does, you have like 160 flowers, and you could start your own botanical garden at that point. But one day I'll figure out how to get the bot to show you all of your flowers, because at the moment it won't fit in a Twitch message. Matcha Catcher says, I just realised you never got Blowhigh. I never did get Blowhigh. You know why I didn't get Blowhigh? Because I've been talking non-stop since you redeemed it. Let me get Blowhigh right now for you, Matcha. Okay. This is Blowhigh. He is soft and cuddly, and we love him. And Flisklet, oh no, Teabagger wants to see my outfit. Flisklet was just cutting a flower. Here is my outfit. It is my favourite flowery top and my spinny skirt. I think you'll agree, not bad for an illegal woman. Imagine the power I would have if I was legal, hey? Yes, this has always been one of my favourite tops. I think my appreciation for an outfit is directly proportional to how many flowers it has on it. LT Bago says, as a dude who had hair so long I can almost sit on it. It's not just women who can take a long time getting ready. Hashtag heavy metal problems. Yes, I am in awe of LT Bago's hair. It's not often that I wish I looked more like a male person. I'm usually limited to getting gender envy from women. But LT Bago has very, very nice hair. Although he has very, very nice hair up here. He also has very, very nice hair here, and I don't want that bit. Like, I'm not swapping hair with LT Bago if it means I have to have the beard as well. That would not work. But yes, he has shared photos on the Discord a couple of times. Yes, 162 flowers in your garden. Mavis says you look amazing as always. Thank you so much, Mavis. I try my best. You know, it's not easy. I have to work with what I've got, and what I've got is not much. There we go. Flisklet says, I do have curly hair problems. My fiance stares at me because if I don't let it dry just right, I'll look ridiculous. So I feel that. Yes, I have, as you can see, very straight hair. It's the only part of me that is straight. But yeah, I've never even artificially curled my hair. I've always had it like this. It is a little more well behaved. Obviously, when I was male presenting, it was shorter and it tended to stick up in random directions and stuff. It's a bit more well behaved now. It's got some weight to it. But I know some streamers with curly hair who've talked about hair care and beauty and cosmetics type stuff in general. Orzul being one of them, and yeah, they do not have an easy time. So I sympathise with that. Sarah with stars. She got scammed, match. And no, look, Sarah, look, Blowhigh is here. Blowhigh is here for you. He is doing his best to be as soft and cuddly as always. Flisklet, thank you so much for redeeming your flower. Also your first flower. So many people getting their first flower today. At least I think you're getting your first flower. If you think you already had a flower collection, by the way, and the bot is saying it's your first one, do let me know, because the bot has been misbehaving. Narcissistic says, what I don't get is how my boyfriend takes a fraction of the time to do his makeup than I do. And he does full glam with impeccable liner and stubble cover. Sorcery, I tell you. See, exactly, you know. Anyone who talks about, oh yeah, makeup is for women, like, no. No, it isn't. Never has been. Yeah, some people are better at it than others, and that doesn't really fall along gender lines, I think. So, only right that it was reported, says Sarah. Oh, what, me not having my blowhigh? Look, I've got the blowhigh now. Okay, better late than never. Yes, blowhigh emotes. This is a fairly new one, actually. People who haven't watched one of my streams for a while might not have seen this emote before. Loon very kindly redrew the blowhigh, so we have a 2.0 version of the static blowhigh emote. And then I sat down with Photoshop in an afternoon and made the jumping blowhigh. I'm so glad to hear you like my outfit, Mavis. And thank you everyone for the spinny emotes. Rooney says I've got to run off to feed myself and satisfy my growling stomach. Yes, no problem, Rooney. Thank you so much once again for that raid. And do take care of yourself. Yes, self-care always takes precedence to lurking in the streams. And I know I'm guilty of that myself. Enjoy your dinner, Rooney, and enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. I don't think I really shouted you out properly, did I? Rooney is another, of course, awesome streamer. Plays a lot of RPGs. Was playing The Last of Us Part 2 recently. Yes, was playing it again today. So if you enjoy The Last of Us, or you just want to hang out with Rooney, who's one of the kindest, sweetest people I know, please hit that follow button. Flisket says, I didn't know there was flowers to collect. Yes, well, lots of people, lots of streamers have a daily something redeem button where you click it and the bot tells you how many times you've clicked it. And I thought, well, I want to add my own personal touch to that. So, not only does it give you a different flower each time, it remembers which flower it's given you. So you see there, those are the flowers that I have. I don't have very many because I don't usually press the button myself. I'm still working on a solution for how people can see which flowers they've got if their garden is too big. But yes, I definitely do. Not only that, usually once per stream, somebody hits the Read from Botany book redeem. Which is 1,000 channel points. You can choose any British wildflower, and I will spend 10 or 15 minutes showing it you and reading about it and explaining about it. And if you are not British and don't know what flowers we have here, then that's absolutely fine, because you can just choose a random page number from the book, and we can find out what's on that page and we can learn about that. El Tibago says, that's a good point. Did you have a name change? Maybe it's me, right? Yes. Yes, they did. They were Nyx Moonlight before, I think. But yes. Still the Moonlight. Oh, did you have flowers on your old... Let me fix that right now before I forget. Yes, that's right. You were Nyx Moonlight 96 flower. Before. You should not be deprived of your flowers. You have 10 flowers on your previous name. Stupid bot, I just changed it. Look, you wouldn't think that I work in IT, would you? Given that any time I have to do anything technical, it completely fails. Um, I promise I'm not this bad at my job, or well, maybe sometimes I am this bad at my job. There we go. Look, there we are. You've got your other 10 flowers. Everything is good. You have Lesser Spearwort from today and 10 other things as well. Impeccable customer service, says Sarah. Mavis, thank you so much for redeeming Read from Botany book. We will do that now then before we go back to the game. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any more chat. Matcha Catcher adding the quote. I have, as you can see, very straight hair. It's the only part of me that is straight. It's well, fun fact. Again, for certain definitions of fun, in the last week's Supreme Court ruling, where they ruled that I'm not a woman, they also ruled that I'm not a lesbian. Apparently, trans women who are attracted to women are not lesbians. The Supreme Court judge specifically said that. So I'm not sure what that means, like whether that means that I have to be straight or whether it's just that I'm some other flavour of queer. Because, yeah, I mean, I'm not... It's awkward because I'm not really sexually attracted to anyone. I would call myself asexual, but I am definitely romantically attracted to women. And not men. So... call it what you want. But I'm certainly not giving myself the label straight, apart from my hair. What am I like? Okay. Mavis says enjoying the new username. Yes, I'm glad to hear that, Mavis. There's a few people I know on Twitch who change their username every so often. Shell, I think, has been through at least 5 name changes now, and every time she swears that's her last one. Hello, Kaiser Podge. I'm glad you're still here. Enjoy your gift sub that Tofu very generously gave you. Narcissistic says all task tea with pick and fire. Yes, what normally happens is halfway through the stream, LT Bago will redeem Read from Botany book. But I encourage other people to redeem it. Mavis has redeemed Carnation. Now, I don't know if Carnations actually grow wild in the UK. In which they don't, they might not be in my book. Let me just check that. Yeah, I don't think they do. Let me just put in the Latin name to make sure I'm... Oh, okay. Apparently there are a few records for them, which I suspect are Garden Escapes. It's in the BSBI database under the common name Clove Pink, not Carnation, which is why I didn't find it the first time. Yeah, we'll look at that then. Kaiser says working IT means the machine spirits are angry with you. Look, why would the machine spirits be angry with me? I'm the only one who understands them. I don't expect them to do impossible tasks. I don't get angry with them when they misbehave because I know ultimately it's not their fault. It's the fault of the idiot programmer who wrote the program wrong. Hello, hit people guy who says UBU fuck the court, chaos reigns. I mean, I would expect somebody named Hit People Guy to be encouraging chaos. Please do not rush to violent action. I am required by Twitch guidelines to say that. Mr. People Guy. It's all right. It's fine. His name just means that he's a hit with people. Like, he's really popular. He's not actually hitting anyone. It's fine. Narcissistic says, so you're saying if Kyle dumps me, I have a shot? I mean, maybe. I don't really, as I say, I don't engage in sexual relationships. And I'm probably not going to engage in a cross-continental long-distance relationship either, because it's just not practical. When I'm for all practical purposes, I can't travel to Florida because I'm trans. So how would that even work? So yeah, it's awkward. Sarah Star says, "Don't do it, Emma. You and I are in the same party here. Asexuality with romantically gay." And so many cis-hets can't cope with the separation of romance and sex. You are valid, however you come or don't. You know. Sarah is so sweet, and then she makes puns like that, and you wonder. Yes, I know, I know. It's the people who get it, and the people who don't. And everybody here in chat now gets it, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be watching me in the first place. So it's pointless me trying to explain all this stuff to you guys, because you guys already understand it. But just because you doesn't understand it doesn't mean people out in the world understand it. Hurricane says, oh yeah, Hurricane says, as the idiot programmer, I agree. And Kaiser says, uh-oh, I'm the idiot programmer. I have a lot of crimes against machine spirits to my name. Yeah, so, there's a source control tool called Git, which programmers will probably have heard of. Which was written by Linus Torvalds, who's the guy who wrote Linux. He did make the joke that he names all his software after himself. Obviously, he named Linux after himself, and the joke was that he named Git after himself as well. Yeah, I think Git was short for, or it was an acronym for something, but it's the mainstream version control software that we use now. And it has a feature called blame. Blame is quite a strong word, but what the git blame command does is it tells you who is responsible for each line of code in a program. And there have definitely been occasions when I have gone, okay, which idiot wrote this code? Run the git blame command. Oh, it was me. Why did I do that? This is stupid. And sometimes it's because I wrote it 10 years ago and I was younger and more naive then, and I wasn't as good of a programmer. Other times it was like I wrote it 3 months ago and I've just completely forgotten. And Emma, what were you doing? You are clearly having an off day. How was that code ever going to work? So yeah, I am also the idiot programmer. Very much so. But I do my best not to commit crimes against machine spirits, such as attempting to vibe code with AI. I definitely consider that a crime against machine spirits. Narcissistic says, I'm Ace Mom, but yes, Carl is my lobster. That being said, you're very pretty. Thank you. Yes, I mean, I don't know what you look like because you're a VTuber, but I'm sure you are also very pretty. Sarah with Stars says, did you hear that disappointment, chat? It wouldn't be Twitch without a well-placed AO. Indeed. Hello, Dream Yeti, who says, I hope you are well. I hope you are well too. It's very good to see you. Yeah, I'm not disappointed in you, Sarah. I've known you long enough to anticipate what you're going to say, and obviously I like hanging out with you because if I found those sorts of comments off-putting, then I wouldn't hang out with you, and I do. So don't worry about it. LT Bago says Gamers Nexus did an exposed piece on Win Ring Zero yesterday. Seems people are finally catching on. RGB and stuff like SysMonitor apps are vanishing across the land. Kaiser says I already work legacy database code. I fear fixing vibe coded software. Yes. Fortunately, in my current job, I mostly get to work on either new developments or maintaining existing stuff that I either wrote or at least had a hand in designing. Which is good because it means it's for the most part not terrible. But I've definitely had to work on terrible code bases before. Narcissistic says, I don't own pants. That's all you need to know. I mean, I own some. I never wear them. Because I always wear skirts. But, I mean, you live in Florida, right? So, you don't own pants because you just wear shorts all year round, right? Because it's Florida. It's not cold enough to need to wear pants. Flisk says, me reading some of my writing, some of which I wrote last week. What drugs was I doing when I wrote this? This is having the same spirit as that. I mean, drugs and coding definitely don't mix. And I certainly do not use drugs myself. It's more, I think, just that I was tired or distracted or fed up. I think I've written some bad code this week just because of how fed up I am. El Tibago says, I can confirm this statistic is also very pretty. Tibago has secret knowledge. Look at that. I finally caught up with chat. It only took like literally an hour. Which is good news. Hopefully Mavis is still here. Because I'm going to do some botany now. We will put Blowhigh to the side for just a second. Don't worry, Blowhigh is still there. We will still look after him and he'll come back later. Narcissistic says no idea about the temperature. I won't be leaving the aircon until October. Drugs and coding don't mix. Have you played 90% of Spectrum Commodore 64 games? Yeah, Tibago, the 80s were a different time, okay? What happened in the 80s stays in the 80s. Okay, let's do some botany. So yeah, by carnation, I think I think there are several plants called carnation, but I think the one Mavis is referring to is one known as clove pink. So the Latin name is this mouthful, Dianthus caryophyllus. And I'll bring up a picture of it. That's really low resolution. At some point, Google Images started not showing you the full resolution of pictures, and I don't know why. It's not like it makes a difference to how fast the page loads or anything. There we go. So yeah, this is, I think, what you mean by carnation, these nice pink flowers. So this is not a native British plant. It is commonly planted in gardens here. It's not particularly good at escaping into the wild. Some garden plants are much better than others at escaping. Alchemilla mollis, lady's mantle, green alkanet, things like that. Notoriously things like Japanese knotweed. They will actually, actively find their way out of gardens. They'll hop over fences onto road verges and so on. This does have records in the BSBI's database, which means it has been found in the wild. It might not be in the book, but I'm going to get the book and I'll see if it's in the book. You'd think a book this size would have every flower in the world in it, but it doesn't. Ugh. Narcissistic says, I play nothing but Core Keeper now. It's all yours fault. That's true. I did introduce you to Core Keeper. I think I introduced quite a few people to Core Keeper, including Harry, who was a big fan of the explosive weapons. Chonky book. Yes. Well, there's two of them. This is the BSBI's Plant Atlas, and this is not actually like a botanical book. It's not like a field guide or anything, or an identification guide. It's the results of the systematic surveys that we do, which is published every 20 years. There is absolutely no reason to own this book. It was like £100 and it's incredibly heavy. The only reason I own it is because I participated in the surveys, and it's sort of a memento of all that effort that I put in. Right, is this plant even in here? Yes, it is. Okay. Well, that's good. That means we can look it up. Oh, but it's in the other book. They had to split it into 2 volumes. Yes, here we go. So Dianthus caryophyllus, known as clove pink, but also known as carnation. This plant, it is a member of the pink family. There is a family of plants called pinks, and that's actually where the colour pink comes from. The word pink was originally a word for that type of flower, and then it became the word for that colour. A bit like the word orange originally meant the fruit, and then it meant things that are the colour of the fruit. And same with violet as well, was originally the flower. So there's a whole family of plants called pinks. Unsurprisingly, they have pink flowers. What's really interesting is that one of the plants in that family, we have actually talked about on this stream before, is called cheddar pink. Cheddar pink is a very, very rare native plant which grows in Cheddar Gorge, which is just down the road from my house. And it is the national, sorry, it's not the national, it's the county flower of Somerset, where I live. And there are only, a few dozen places left where it grows. And I have personally visited some of those sites, which are very precariously perched on the edge of the gorge. And I've actually recorded it myself, and it's probably the rarest thing that I've personally recorded. And it's right here on the opposite page to clove pink. So thank you for reminding me of that, Mavis. Yes, the Americans always find it hilarious when I mention cheddar, because to them it's just a cheese. But it's not just a cheese, it's also a town in Somerset and a gorge, Limestone Gorge, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and has a hugely diverse botanical. I think it's the single most diverse bit of land in Somerset. There's about 500 species grow there, including some extremely rare ones that only grow there. There are species of white beam, which is a type of tree that only grow in Cheddar Gorge, nowhere else. And cheddar pink is almost only found there. But yeah, clove pink, garden plant. The book has this to say about it. This herb is widely grown in gardens and occasionally found as a naturalised escape on old walls, rocks and shingle, and as a casual on refuse tips. It has been cultivated in Britain since 1596 and is very commonly grown in gardens. It was first recorded in the wild in 1666 when it was discovered on the walls of Rochester Castle in East Kent. a rare alien, its distribution has remained fairly stable in recent decades, with some historical records perhaps referring to hybrids with other species in the pink family. It is actually, according to this book, we don't actually know where the plant originated. We think it's native to southern Europe, but we're actually not sure. Because the only places it's found today are as it's been passed around the world as a garden plant, and it doesn't really have a native range, but it must be from somewhere originally. So yeah, it says not known with any certainty as a wild plant. Recorded as doubtfully native in southern Europe. So it's very unusual for the book to say that. We usually know what part of the world something's from. But if it died out in the wild centuries ago, then we wouldn't know. It is a mystery. Mavis says you're welcome. It's my favourite flower. Yeah, I suppose cheddar pink has got to be one of my favourites. And it is a very close relative of this one. Oh dear. Yes, it's a good thing Ratmost isn't here, Harry. So I will quickly bring up a distribution map. So we have very dedicated teams of amateur botanists, or in some cases, Emma, working hard to bring you the information about where are their flowers. Interestingly, there seem to be a lot of carnations found in the wild in this little area of northern Scotland. So whether they're particularly common to plant there and they found their way out of gardens, it looks like all of these records are next to relatively small villages. So that's interesting. I would not have made that connection, but you can see there are scattered records elsewhere in the country as well. None of them particularly recent either. So it's not a British wildflower. I will just bring up cheddar pink as well. Just to show you, yeah, again, so these light coloured squares are historical records, and I believe they were all introductions anyway. The only places it grows native are the Somerset coast here near Weston-super-Mare, and then in Cheddar Gorge, and that's the only place it grows wild in the whole world. So it's an incredibly rare plant. And yeah, that little dot there, that was me. There is one plant in Draycott Slate's nature reserve, and I shouldn't really be sharing its location too precisely because people are assholes and will go and destroy it. But yeah, so it used to be its historic distribution was all the way along the southern slopes of the Mendips. So this bit here, this is the Mendip Hills that I'm sort of outlining here. And so the southern slopes of it is this bit. And it would have been all along there, but it was gathered to be sold as a garden plant. And so it basically disappeared from all but the most inaccessible places, which are mostly the sides of Cheddar Gorge, but also a couple of crags around. But yeah, if you imagine it being all along here, and all along here is where it would originally have been. Scottish are careless with the security of their gardens. I mean, everyone's careless with the security of their gardens. If we look at something that's more commonly found as a garden escape, such as green alkanet. So this is not a native plant. Every single one of these records it's escaped out of someone's garden. And there are others, like, for example, Alchemilla mollis, garden lady's mantle. Every one of those has escaped out of a garden, and so on and so forth. So yes. Let's not level any blame at the Scots here. But yeah, for anyone who's not seen this before, and I'm not sure Mavis might not have seen this before, if we look at something really common like brambles, you get, obviously you find brambles everywhere, we know that, but you get an overview of where botanical activity has been happening. The colour of the dots on this map relate to when the record was made. I don't know how clear it is on the stream. There is a scale in the corner here. Maybe I can zoom in. So the darkest colour is records made since 2020. The next lightest is 2010 to 2020 and so on, going back to pre-1930. We actually have records over 300 years old in the database. And any area like this where it's just green, that means that the plant hasn't been recorded there. Now, brambles grow everywhere. There is nowhere in the country where you don't get brambles. So if you type in a plant like this, it's a good indication of where botany has actually been done. i.e. this part of Wales, for example. Basically, it just means not many people have bothered going there and studying the plants there. Whereas, for example, this county of Ireland, I'm not sure which county that is, has been completely systematically surveyed. I live in North Somerset, which is the area I'm circling here. And I am privileged to live in one of the better surveyed areas of the country. You can see some areas are very much more covered than others. And for the last 5 years, I have been contributing my own records to this database. And this roughly triangular shaped area here, not all of them, but most of those records were done by me. So it is interesting to be able to zoom out to the scale of the whole country and still be able to see, like, this is all me walking around on foot writing down the plants, and I've covered an area that you can see on a map of the whole country. And it took me 5 years. So yeah, it within about 25 years, I might have done the whole of North Somerset. It's I think the only achievement of any significance I've made in my life is this blob on this map. So the least I can do is share it with people. El Tibago says there's some interesting things on Wiki about a wild carnation. Yes, found in the Mediterranean countries of Portugal, Spain, Italy, Croatia, Albania, Greece, and Turkey. So yeah, definitely southern Europe. It's interesting that the book says we don't know where it comes from and that it's a dubious native of southern Europe, because that list of countries definitely seems to correlate with it being native to southern Europe. I'll read the Wiki article as well then. Let's put the plant photo back. I was just showing the map for a little bit because Mavis hasn't seen it before and I thought she would be interested. And yeah, that website, by the way, if you go to bsbi.org/, yeah, the database .bit is just if you're you have special access like I do, but you can go there. You don't have to sign up or anything. You can just type in the name of a plant and it shows you where to find it. Obviously, it's not very helpful if you don't live in the UK, but there are not really many parts of the world that have recording in that much detail. It's kind of something special that we have. Not just the UK, but also Ireland. It's the Botanical Society of Britain and Ireland. So Britain and Ireland tend to have the same plants for the most part. So it's the same organisation. But yeah, let's look at the Wikipedia article about carnation clove pink. Yeah, Wikipedia confidently says it's native to the Mediterranean region, so I don't know why the BSBI Plant Atlas is doubting that. Wikipedia cites another database, the PFAF, Plants for a Future database, which I think has just pulled its information from other sources. And I think this website is using American sources for things. Yes, because it talks about whether it's North American native. So there's an American website that thinks it comes from Southern Europe. So who knows? That's certainly where it's found. Wikipedia does say its exact natural range is uncertain due to extensive cultivation over the last 2,000 years. I mean, yeah, if something's been grown in the same place for 2,000 years, difficult to tell. Carnations are prized for their vibrant colours, delicate fringed petals, and fragrance. Scent is described as clove-like, hence the common name clove pink. It gets used in perfumes and potpourri. They are associated with love, distinction, and motherly affection. Mentioned in Greek literature 2,000 years ago, the term dianthus, which is now the scientific name, was coined by a Greek botanist called Theophrastus. So it's the ancient Greek words for divine and flower, dios, anthos. So although we call them Latin names, the scientific names, this is actually Greek in origin, the name. The name carnation comes from Latin corona, meaning crown. Linnaeus described it in 1753. He basically invented modern botany and called it Dianthus caryophyllus. The original natural flower colour is a bright pink, but cultivars of other colours, including red, pink, yellow, white, and green, have been developed. Green flowers always seem weird to me. Like, I feel like petals of flowers shouldn't be green. It just doesn't feel right. Because they generally aren't. Because the point of brightly coloured petals, the reason that brightly coloured petals evolved was to attract insects to a flower to pollinate it. And you don't need to produce big bright green petals because you already have big green things on your plant in the form of leaves. So the point of the petals is to make the flower stand out from the leaves. And if the leaves are green and the petals are green, that doesn't work. But yeah, apparently they've been bred to be green. There are no known carnation cultivars that produce a blue flower. Interesting. So they've managed red, pink, yellow, white, and green, but not blue. I suppose that's like tulips. You can't get black tulips, even though they've tried to make them, like, not completely black. As Tobago said, it's found in several southern European countries. There's an entire Wikipedia article list of carnation diseases. There are many, many things that carnations can suffer from. Mavis says, saving up points for the next flower. So very much enjoyed that information. Yes, I mean, if you drop by my streams, usually the botany segment starts about 2 hours into the stream because I usually stream for about 4 hours and Tobago usually redeems it 2 hours in. So yeah, if you don't have points, don't worry. Just join me about 2 hours into my streams and I'll usually be doing botany of some sort. Narcissistic says we can't figure out the name of a gulf or how to spell colour. Don't go by us. I mean, I'm not going to blame you for having differences in spelling. British English and American English diverged from each other at a time when spelling was still somewhat in flux. There's a lot of very stupid spellings that English has settled on. So I don't blame Americans one bit for trying to change it. Green flowers is very moonlight. Yes, I don't know if maybe I can find a picture of a green carnation. I'm just going by the Wikipedia article saying that they exist. Like if I Google green carnation, I get pictures of carnations with green flowers. Some of these look digitally manipulated though, so I'm not sure. Okay, I think this Yeah, I think this is a legitimate. Just ended up on Pinterest. Um, this is a legitimate photo. So when they say green, they mean this color. So it's not quite the green of a plant's leaves. It's more of a pale yellowish green. Sort of reminds me of the color of lettuce. But it's certainly green, and it's certainly not a common. You don't often see flowers of that color in the wild. You tend to get white, pink, red, yellow, orange, blue. You do occasionally get this color. There's a plant called Moscatel. There's a wild plant called Moscatel, which does have a flower that color. It's really tiny though, so a lot of people don't even notice the flower. See if I can find a good picture of that. Come on, Google, show me a proper sized picture. Yeah, here we go. This is a good one. So this is a British wild plant called Moscatel, and the flowers are these bits, and you see they are green. So yeah, green flowers are a thing. It's just they're much less common than other colours of flowers because, as I say, the point of the brightly coloured petals is to attract insects. So they have to be they have to be distinct from the surrounding vegetation, otherwise they're not serving their purpose. That's celery, says Narcissistic. It is the colour of celery, that's quite true. But celery, you're looking at the leaves and the stalks of the celery, not the flowers. Silverstar says Emma has a good scam radar. I don't know if I have a good scam radar in general. Specifically in relation to plants, I probably do because I know what plants are supposed to look like. Yes, Tibago's listing cultivars. The names of plant cultivars are amazing. There are some really, really strange names out there. It's a bit like naming race horses. At a certain point, you run out of normal names and you start giving them wacky ones. So that's the gardening side of plants rather than the botany side of plants. Botanists will give a plant a species name and possibly a variant, like a subspecies or a variant if the obvious variations within the species. But if it's an artificially bred cultivar, that's like another level down from subspecies or variant, and botanists don't generally bother with that. That's more horticulturists. And yeah, there's not really like an official, like for scientific plant names, there's like an official organization that decides the names, whereas for gardeners can name their plants what they like, basically. So yeah, you get things like green jewel, green thumb, green mist, green trick, all sorts of things. Narcissistic says we'll have a lot of problems that stem from microwaving RT. Yes, so Americans have 120 volts mains power instead of 240. So boiling water via electricity is slower than in the UK. Therefore, electric kettles are less common. But also drinking tea is less common, so it's less of a problem. And you know, I know I'm British and people like to stereotype, but I don't care how people drink their tea. You know, you drink it however you want. It's nothing to do with me. Narcissistic says they look like they really want to be tomatoes one day. You're right, actually. That does kind of look like that. Anyway, that's probably enough botany for one day. We have been going at it for half an hour now. We're 2 hours into the stream, and I've played like 10 minutes of Temetsi, which is a pretty poor ratio, even by my standards. There have been games where I've just ended up wandering around chatting to the stream rather than playing the game. Botany Manor was one such game. which is interesting because you'd think I'd be interested in the game because it was about botany, but no, I ended up wandering around, not playing the game properly and talking to chat. Let me have my anti-patriot era in peace, Emma. I don't get involved in American politics beyond the obvious bit of saying fascism is bad and trans rights are good. And if you disagree with that, then we're probably not going to be able to have a conversation about. You're probably not going to be my friend either. Yeah, let me quickly put the books back. I will leave you with a Moscatel while I do so. Altibago says, I wonder whose influence Emma having the yap is. Altibago, Emma is her own person. Not all of her personality traits have to come from someone else. Like, if you're thinking the answer is Ophelia or Sarah with Stars, then no, because I was like this long before I knew either of them. Okay, let me put these books back. Mavis says that was wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Mavis. Yes, as I say, when I'm not playing video games on the internet, my main interest in life is botany. I know my job is in IT, and that's what I do for a living because I'm good at it. Because there's no money in botany. All the surveys I do are completely voluntary. But that's what I'm actually interested in. And I like to share that with my viewers by talking about plants. And, if you're going to listen to me rant about something, you'd probably prefer plants to trans rights. So then it's probably best that I have that to talk about. Right, let's have Blowhigh back. He waited patiently. Blowhigh is not that interested in flowers on account of he lives in the ocean where there aren't any. One day we'll have to talk about seaweed, Blowhigh, so that you can be interested as well. I'm happy to listen to both as narcissistic. I'm sure you are. Yeah, let's go back to Temetsi. Which, by the way, this is actually, I'm in full screen mode. OBS doesn't work with Temetsi for some reason. This is the game capture in OBS. And I've never had any other game that just flat out doesn't work with OBS. So this is just the screen capture that I'm using here. No idea why that is. We were halfway through this hexagon level when I got thoroughly distracted by, I can't even remember what it was. I think I was going on a rant about trans rights. I think that's what distracted me. Which, is... Oh, I didn't even mean to click there. Let me reset. That is something that happens on this channel. It is just, it's a bit like hurricanes in Florida. Just like, if you live in this channel, then trans rights rants might happen at any time. And we need like the equivalent of like a tornado siren. Like, warning, Emma rant incoming. Seek shelter. Seek earplugs for the incoming Emma rant. Right, let's not click there. The Nikki game does this for me in OBS. Yeah, I've never played Infinity Nikki. But I have watched a fair few people play it. I did not know OBS didn't like it. Okay, so all 5 of those, and then 3 there, 4 there. Look at all these hexagons I've got for you. This is surely the most hexagons you've ever seen outside of a Dwarf Romantic playthrough. Right, I think we're at the stage we need to use the colours to help us. Yeah, so there's 2 pinks left, and it can't be these 2 because there's a 1 here. So it's got to be one of those and also that one. So we know that that is mine, and then we know that one of those is. So these are safe. And then we've also got 4 blues, and it can't be these 2 because that would make a 3 around this 2. So it's one of those, and it's got to be all of these. So we can mark off all of these ones. Since it's one of those, that means it's not that one. And then actually we can just solve all of this now. Right, we've got 1 green left, and we've got 1 green space, so it's that one. And then okay, there's 1 blue left. Oh, right. There's 5 left in total, so there are 4 grey spaces. All 4 remaining grey spaces must be mine, and then we have that. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that's only level 15 out of 100. So you can feel the difficulty ramping up, and trust me, it ramps up a long way by the time we get to level 100. Hello, Peach. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. Peach, you've just missed the botany segment. We learned about carnations today, courtesy of Mavis, which was a lot of fun. And we're playing a Minesweeper-style logic puzzle game called Tametsi, which I've played before off stream. I basically chose it because I am really I've really not had a good week, and I need something low energy. I didn't want the pressure of trying to figure out a new game on stream or anything like that. And this is something I know, and it requires thinking, but it's controlled thinking, if that makes sense. I do like a lot of good logic games. Yeah, so this is like a Minesweeper style game, but it's personally my favourite Minesweeper style game because it's got all sorts of different shapes of levels and stuff like that. So Peach says, I'm sorry, but hey, it's the weekend now. The week is behind us. Yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't been a bad week in that sense, Pidge. It's not the type of bad week that is solved by the arrival of the weekend. It's the type of week where your rights get taken away from you. So I've ranted enough this stream, so I won't do it anymore. But yeah, suffice to say, that's why I'm not feeling too good. Okay, this is an interesting situation. It's difficult. Like, the game suddenly throws this very pretty triangle hexagon tiling at you, and it becomes difficult to count the adjacent cells. This 2 has this triangle adjacent to it, so it can only have 1 more. So we can't have both of these being mines because that would break this 2. So in order to satisfy this 2, we have to have this one and also one of these. So we can go ahead and mark this as being 1. Then, because it's one of these and this one, we can rule out that one and that one, which then tells us it has to be that one. And there's I do still think it's the sort of thing that maybe doesn't make for particularly good viewing. But I really like working through these logic puzzles and having the satisfaction of figuring it out at the end. And hopefully people are willing to humour me and watch me do it, which is awesome. Narcissistic says, yeah, they're predicting a rough storm season this year where we're all being priced out of our property insurance. Woohoo. Yes, I am very grateful, not only that I don't live in Florida, I mean, I'm grateful for that for many reasons. I'm grateful, firstly, that I don't live in an area with many natural disasters, and secondly, the one natural disaster you do get here in Somerset is floods. We're quite notorious for it. Large parts of Somerset are only a few metres above sea level. But I live on top of a hill. So, yeah, I'm 240 meters above sea level. So if I flood, we've got bigger problems. Like Noah's Ark level of problems. So I'm grateful for that. There we go. The one other thing we do have here actually is abandoned mine shafts. This used to be a huge coal mining area, and there are coal seams all around. There are coal mines in the village where I live. There are coal mines in all of this area. And when you ask like a solicitor to do like a legal checks on a property before you move in, one of the things they do is a report about mining activity. And the report is absolutely useless. What it basically tells you is there was a history of coal mining in the area. Like, no shit. There's a giant pit wheel in the centre of the town where I live. It's a bit of a clue. So there was a history of coal mining. There's no current coal mining here. We can't guarantee that there won't be any coal mining in future. We have no idea where the mine shafts are because they weren't all documented. There may be mine shafts under your house, there may not. What I do know is that every few years one caves in, and only about 5 years ago there was quite a significant sinkhole opened up. Only like one street from where I live, and knocked out the water main for half the village for several days. So yeah, I do live permanently in fear that one day my house might disappear into a hole in the ground. But I would be covered by insurance if I did. At least I can afford insurance. But it's nothing like as likely as, say, getting hit by a hurricane when you're in Florida, which is very, very likely. Pack up the boat and sail to Canada, says ELT Bago to Narcissistic. I mean, that assumes that Canada would let you in. Canada has its own problems. Paige says, I hear you, wish I could make that better, but out of my hands, it's all infuriating. Yeah, I realise you can't help with it, Paige, but that's fine. Just you being here is more than enough. We've got an interesting level now because there's very little to go off of on the actual board, and we've got to rely on these clues, diagonal clues that refer to the whole board. The triangle goes in the hexagon hole, says T-Bago. Oh no, not that. I have seen that. Was it a TikTok or I've seen it on YouTube, I think. Yes, my I don't have any children, obviously, but my sister has children, and they occasionally go to visit my parents, and they play with some toys that me and my siblings had as a child, and my parents have saved. And we had 2 shape sorters. And one of them is well designed, and each shape only fits in the hole for that shape. The other one, it's not a case of everything goes in the square hole. It's not that, but multiple shapes fit in the wrong holes, and it's I think the biggest problem is if you turn the shape sideways, it fits in pretty much anything, and it's not. It's not a good learning tool, which is what these things are supposed to be for. Narcissistic says, yeah, I'm on the ridge that runs down the middle. I'm grateful for that. LT Bagger says, we can't even build a south to north high-speed railway, never mind an arc. I mean, we can. We very much can build a south to north high-speed railway. It's the decision of whether we take public transport seriously as a country, and whether our government is actually capable of organising its way out of a paper bag, and so on. We very much have the technology to build train tracks. We used to be legendary at it. There's an old railway line less than half a mile from my house, which is one of about 20 in the area. You know, if we really wanted to, we can build railways like nobody's business. But we don't seem to want to. Narcissistic says, sinkholes have been a phobia of mine since childhood. I didn't realise that was a thing to worry about over yonder too. So normally sinkholes happen when water gets into the ground and basically liquefies it to the point that it can't support the foundation of whatever's above. So you get sinkholes during flooding, you get sinkholes due to erosion. By action of water. Like you try to divert a river, but nature has other ideas and decides to undermine something. That's by far the most common cause of sinkholes. But yes, you also have sinkholes from mining. These days, not so much. Because mines either tend to be giant open cast affairs, which obviously don't have houses in them. Or, you know, we have regulations and rules these days, and you can't just dig under someone's house without telling them that you're there. But back in the 18th and 19th century, when some of the Somerset coal seams were being worked, I mean, this is all before equipment. It was literally people going down a shaft with a pickaxe and working a seam, sometimes like 18 inches thick coal seam, and crawling along it. And those tunnels are all over the place, and we don't know where they all are. Some of the bigger ones, like the last coal mines here closed in the 1970s, but they were bigger ones. They weren't the ones here in my village. They were the ones in the towns, or near the towns. They're better known, and they've actually sent people in with like a foam spray thing. They basically sprayed this foam into the mine shafts so that they don't collapse. But yeah, every so often, just a random hole somewhere. And you know, this is not the only area of the country that has that problem. Yorkshire and Wales and so on have it as well. And Wales has it worse. Wales had slate mines, which they piled up the spoil from, which then collapsed and killed a bunch of people. So, the one thing I can be grateful for is the spoil heaps here are all very well managed. They've all been stabilised with trees and so on. I think Harry we drove past one of the spoil heaps when he visited. Which, again, like, I paid a solicitor like £50 for a report that says there used to be coal mining in this area. Meanwhile, outside the window, there's this giant volcano-looking thing, which is one of the spoil heaps. Yeah, like, no shit, there was coal mining in this area. How do you think that got there? El Tibago says not so much diggy hole these days. I mean, Tibago, there's plenty of diggy hole. It's just that the hole is being dug by a giant excavator the size of a small town, and not some dude with a pickaxe. If it seems like I'm stalling because I don't know how to solve the level, by the way, that's exactly what I'm doing. I think this is how I'm supposed to proceed. This 2 here, only one of these can be a mine, so that has to be a mine. One of these is, and I can actually open up the entire rest of this line, which then gives me a bunch of stuff to work on. That. I can play these quite fast. Like, I'm quite good at visualizing where things are. The problem is, if I do play them fast, I inevitably make mistakes, and the game doesn't want to make you mistakes, and you feel like you have to start again to get a perfect run, and that's frustrating. So I will try not to make mistakes. Right, this is a 4. We've got 1, 2, 3, and then only one of these can be a mine. So neither of them. That one and that one. Both of those, all 3 of those. I think playing Dwarf might have helped me as well, because traditional Minesweeper is squares, so I think people are quite good at pattern recognition on a square grid, and maybe not quite so good at pattern recognition on a hexagon grid. But I think I've played so much Dwarf that hex grids are just so natural to me now, that I sort of see things very easily on them. So yeah, you wouldn't expect Dwarf skills to be transferable to other games, but I think maybe they are. So 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one is here, and that completes this 3, so there's nothing there. This 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 2 of these. Oh, that's clear. So the game is telling me there are 4 mines remaining, and one of them is purple. So there's one there. There's a second one there. Hang on, I can't say there's one here and there's one here, because that means there's either one here and one here, or one here. So that doesn't actually help. I need to draw this differently. So there's one here, there's one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least one there. That only accounts for 3 of them though, so there's a fourth one there. That doesn't actually help. How am I supposed to progress this? I suppose the other thing you can do is like trial and error. So like assume that there's a mine in a certain position and see if you can derive a contradiction from it. Peach says sinkhole's scary as hell. We have a lot of phosphate mines and limestone that runs underground, says Narcissistic. Yeah, so there's a lot of that natural limestone caves around here. I'm not on limestone here, where I live. But I'm on the edge of the Mendip Hills, which are a range of limestone hills, and have some very spectacular caves. The most famous of which is a cave called Wookiee Hole. Nothing to do with Star Wars, which is open to the public as like a show cave, the part of it, but there's also part of it that's flooded and is like a world-renowned place for cave diving. Because it's I hesitate to use the word safe. It's as safe as you can make cave diving, because you've got this controlled cave that's open to the public, and then you've got another cave that's open to the public, and you've got a flooded bit between, so you can practice the underwater bit of cave diving like as safely as you practically can. But there are cave systems, both dry and flooded, all around the Mendips, and there's a lot of organisations that like to go down there and map them out. I've actually been down one myself when I was younger, and I've crawled through a hole in the ground that's like this big. It's not for me. I'm not like claustrophobic or anything, but it's not for me. Yeah, it is a thing, but it's not something you have to worry about living here. And yeah, it's generally not a problem, because like it's known where the limestone caves are, and people aren't building houses on them. And you know, it takes thousands of years for a limestone cave to erode, rather than a few months to dig a mine shaft. So it's not quite the same situation. But we do have a lot of limestone, and we have a lot of. There's a mine in the northeast. I've never visited it or anything, but I know it exists. That starts on land, and then the tunnels actually run under the North Sea, which is crazy to me. And these are modern mines, so we're not talking the little narrow things, the little mine carts and the little pit props and stuff. Modern mines, the tunnels are enormous. You have the giant trucks ferrying stuff back and forward, and the tunnels are wide enough you can get 2 of those trucks past each other. So they're several meters wide. And you have, basically a road with cars driving on it under the North Sea. It's crazy to think about that something like that exists. So yeah, what you can do if you're unsure on one of these levels is you can kind of try to work through it. like I'm drawing out here, I'm making the assumption that this tile is a mine, and I'm drawing an X for a mine and a slash for a space. If this is a mine, that forces a space here and a space here, which forces a mine here, which forces a space here. Because this has got to be 6, that also forces 2 mines to be here to make the 6, which would force a space here. So this is it's logically consistent to have a mine here. If I instead try to have the mine here, that would force a different configuration. It would force this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there'd have to be a mine in one of these, and this would have to be a space. Both of those configurations I just worked through have something in common, which is that this space is always a space. So I know no matter what, this is a space, and I can safely click it. So that's the sort of level of logic that you have to do to solve a lot of these. And now I have this 2 here. Now I know there's 1 there, which means there's got to be 1 here. So I can proceed with that and solve the level. Oh my god, it's Verdsky! Best Verdsky. Best Verd, best ski. It's so good to see you. And I'm going to give you a shout out, whether you like it or not. I can't spell your name for some reason. Shout out Verdsky. Verdsky starts off all her streams with a crossword, which I love playing along with. And after that she plays games, but she is in Canada, so quite often that's like 2 AM my time, so I don't get to see it because I'm asleep. But I do catch the crosswords sometimes, and it's always amazing. And me and Verdsky have become good friends, mostly through chatting on Discord and stuff like that. And she is just such an amazing, kind, caring person. And my life is infinitely enriched because of her. And look, that picture there, this one, that is from Verdsky, and it has Canadian wildflowers on. Look, Verdsky, your picture has a friend now because Hazel Azazelzel sent me a postcard, and I had to find another frame, so I have 2 of them now. Oh yeah, my bot is broken, Verdsky, but Harry has given you a flower. Thank you for giving Verdsky some wild basil as her flower of the day. Eltibago says, I randomly went to Glove Mine when I was in Arizona. The internet friends I was visiting work there. That is one big old hole in the ground. Yes, they do love their big holes in the ground. Verdsky says, Emma, you are the sweetest, and I am so grateful for your presence every day and for your cozy stream time. It's so lovely. What a nice gift. Thank you, Verdsky. Eltivago says, I was very disappointed with Verdsky for not eating the keyboard snackies. And Verdsky says, I am sorry, they were too stale. Yes, Verdsky is a big fan of foods of all types. So she wouldn't turn something down without a good reason, I am sure. So we're back with the most confusing type of puzzle in this game. The non-adjacent squares puzzle. So like here, this square is not adjacent to this 2, even though in normal Minesweeper it would be. So I can actually just solve this 2 immediately. Oh, I didn't mean to click on that. See how hard it is to not click on the wrong thing. You have to kind of think differently to normal Minesweeper. Because, yeah, like this one, the mine is in one of these cells. That doesn't mean it's safe to click that cell. So, yeah, you have to count very differently to normal. It doesn't help as well that they have these giant squares. Like in normal Minesweeper, all the squares are the same size. Like the maximum number of cells you can have touching one square is an 8. You can't see a number bigger than 8 in Minesweeper. In some of the later levels in this game, you will see numbers much bigger than 8. Verdsky says this is very cool. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen this game before, Verdsky. This is called Tametsi. It's been a runner-up in my choose game polls on my Discord a few times, but I've never played it on stream before. And for various reasons this week, as I'm sure you're aware, I need a bit of a break where I don't have to think about stuff too much. And this game, which I've just shared the Steam link for, is good because I've played it before. I know what's coming. I don't have to think about it. Yeah, the description even starts off Tametsi as a difficult logic game. Yeah, not the best way to start something by saying it's difficult. Right, I think we have to use this now. This says there can only be 2 mines in this row. There's definitely 1 here. And this 4 forces there to be 1 there. So actually all of this is like safe to remove, I think. That 3 means all of those. That completes the 4. This 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's completed. This 3's done. Can't do that yet. This 4, that's complete now because we've got 4. Do that. This 5, we've got 4 of the 5, so we can only put 1 in here. So this 6, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That has to be the 5th one, and then the 6th one is there. So we uncover all of those. This is 5, so 2 out of those 3, and this is 6, so 2 out of those 3. Okay, that's not helpful. And then there's 8 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so 8 out of these 9 are mines. And because of this 2, only 1 of these is. So we can actually say all 7 of those and then 1 of those. So that solves these 1s, which then solves that 4. There we go. So we are getting there. So now 1 of those 2. And that 1. So 1, 2. It means there's 2 more in this bit. Hey, look, it's Ratmost. It's a shame, Ratmost, you missed us talking about cheddar. We were talking about the cheddar gorge and the cheddar pink flour, not the cheese. But nevertheless, I know it's a favourite topic of yours. Ratmost, I do hope you're well. Excuse my bot being broken. Harry has given you marsh arrowgrass as your flower of the day. Yes, those were the exact emotes Harry was using earlier. Verdsky, I've just realised you redeemed drink water. Sorry about that. I missed that. Thank you for keeping me hydrated. I didn't have my midstream hydration today either because we did it a bit differently. So thank you for the reminder, Verdsky. And thank you, El Tibago, for the stretch. The blow high down again. Blow high doesn't really need to stretch on account of he doesn't have any bones. He's just made of stuffing. Emma is not just made of stuffing, although some days she feels like she is. Oh, ow. Ow! Rude. Sorry, Emma's body, you haven't worked hard enough today to have permission to hurt that much. Ooh. Ratmost says marsh arrowgrass flowers are so small. They are so tiny. There are. It's such a shame that there are so many. There's so many plants out there that have just the smallest flowers, and they always get overlooked because you don't notice them. And there's some of the prettiest things. I love how you look up the flowers that you get, Ratmost, as well. It's so awesome. But you're right, they are small. Excuse me while I stretch for a few minutes before we go back to this puzzle. If you'd like to play along at home, try to solve the remaining part of the puzzle. I think we actually have enough information on screen to solve the rest of it now. Oh, I like flowers, says Ratmost. I know, I'm glad you do. I like flowers too. And I like Ratmost as well. Ratmost is good streamer. Yeah, I like flower and I like rat. Altibago says, that reminds me, I have to go recheck that big Ramsons patch. Saw they are starting to flower now while passing. Yes, Ramsons, also known as wild garlic, also known as bear leek in German. Favourite plant of Ophelia's. I did actually, a couple of weeks ago, hunt down an early flowering one. They mostly started flowering last week, but I found a particularly sunny spot on a south-facing slope where one had opened its flower early to send to Ophelia. But yes, the woods in, like, everyone loves the bluebells. Like, bluebells are such a iconic flower of British woodlands, and some of our woodlands are carpeted with bluebells. It's like a sea of blue at the right time of year. But the woodlands that aren't carpeted with bluebells are usually carpeted with Ramsons. And so it's like a sea of green with little white flowers. But the bluebells don't really have a smell to them, whereas wild garlic has a very strong garlicky smell. And it can be quite overpowering to visit a wood at just the right time of year when the smell is being released. But some people like the smell, some people don't. Oh, right, I think that's enough stretching. Thank you so much for that, Redeem. Matmos says there's a book series from the 70s or 80s about Merlin growing up and finding Arthur and growing old and becoming a tree. And in one of the books, Merlin narrates a childhood memory of laying on flagstones and looking at tiny moss flowers. Yes, I'm not an expert on mosses due to them not being plants. But they have some of the smallest, most intricate detail to them, which is lovely. And there are a lot of people who I think I'm not saying botany is common, because it isn't. Botany is already quite a niche thing, but if you look at how many people are interested in different fields of natural sciences, like the number of people who are into bird watching is huge compared to the number of people who are into botany. And even that is quite big compared to the number of people who are interested in like fungi or mosses or anything like that. And yeah, they are very, very intriguing things. I always think, well, why is bird watching so popular when botany is so much easier? You know, bird watching, you have to try and find the bird. You have to have binoculars. You have to sit in a hide for hours hoping the thing you want shows up. Plants just stay in the same place. It's so much easier to find plants. You just go to where the plant is. But botany is like lazy bird watching. It's not at all. Bird watching doesn't involve picking up the bird, examining it from various angles and going, what is this? Is this a sticky mouse here or a common mouse here? You don't get that in bird watching. Anyway, solution to this puzzle. The 2 out of the 3 here are mines, but this 3 already has 2, so the third one is here. So these 2 are empty. This is 1. And then there's 1 of them. And then that means that one. That completes that 3. And then we've got to put 5 around this 5. we can only put one here. We can only put one here. And we can only put one here. So that's 3. So these both have to be mines then to make up the 5. And then that completes the 6. So that one is empty. So that's pretty much completely solves it. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there we go. Yay, hexagons! I'm always glad when we get hexagons instead of squares. Hexagons are the bestigons. And I'm not just saying that as a dwarf player, I'm saying it as a fan of geometry. If anyone doubts that I'm a fan of geometry outside of dwarf, I refer you to... You can't actually see them because I've moved them to the bottom shelf, but... I refer you to the paper shapes I spent all that time making. And they definitely weren't inspired by dwarf because I made them about 8 years before dwarf even came out. Ratmo says, that's right, they aren't plants, are the flowering structures still flowers? I don't know if this flower is actually a scientific term or not. I mean, even what is a plant is the subject of some nuance. The thing that I study and botanists generally study is a thing called vascular plants. But you can refine that further and say you're only interested in flowering plants. But yeah, I mean, you imagine you've got the evolutionary tree of life, and you've got things branching off a common ancestor. Anytime things branch, you can like pick a branch and draw a circle around that branch and say these are this type of thing. And so you can say that you could define mosses and plants to be a group of things that have things in common and say I'm interested in these things. Or you could say I'm just interested in plants, or just flowering plants, or just monocots, or the most fun one is that there's no such thing as a fish. You can't pick any single branch of the tree of life and have just fish and not non-fish. There are organisms that we call fish that are on completely different branches and are not really related. And then those branches also include things that are both are and aren't fish. So it's like, there's scientifically speaking, fish is not a useful technical term to define things. But planties, we do have an agreed definition of what is a plant. Ratmo says, wait, we think of lichen. So lichen is another thing. And you can have a branch which is plants. You could have another branch which is plants and mosses, or you could have a bigger branch which is plants and mosses and lichens, because they also eventually have a common ancestor, but then split off. You could then bring in fungi and have they also have a common ancestor, and then you can go all the way back to the first single-celled organisms and say that animals are also included in this, and so on. So it's just a case of where you decide to draw the line. But yes, mosses and lichens are separate things. They both have some plant-like features. Mosses more so. I mean, mosses really are quite close to being plants, on account of they basically have leaves. But they're not. The internal structures and the chemistry of them is all very different. Ren, thank you for redeeming your flower, a Dame's Violet. Or Harry, thank you for giving Ren a flower. You're back, Ren. I hope the rest of your workday wasn't too bad. And I'm glad you get to watch me play some of Temetsi, because I know every time it's come up in the Discord poll, you've always voted for it. And I know you're a big fan of puzzles, Ren. Speaking of puzzles, actually, there is a puzzle. There's a puzzle in my stream, and I wonder if anybody can find it. You might have to wait until I leave the room to fetch Blowhigh or something like that in order to be able to actually see the puzzle. But there is a puzzle. on my stream, which somebody might be able to solve at some point. Narcissistic says I'm into idiot watching. Narcissistic says I'm into idiot watching while watching me. I wonder what I should infer from that. I'm into idiot watching, which is why I use Twitch, the best place to watch idiots. I'm joking. I know that's not what you mean. Ratmo says, unfortunately, I'm interested in everything. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being curious and being interested in everything. I highly encourage it. Okay, for this orange section, we have 7 orange mines remaining. There can only be 1 here because of the 2. There can only be 1 here. So that's 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can immediately mark all of these because that's the only possible way it can work. And then we can do that. Now we have 5 in total. The top number here is not the number of grey cells that have a mine, it's the total number of mines remaining. So the fact that there's 4 green and 5 total means there's 1 grey one. It has to be here, so this is safe. So we'll clear it. Altibago says, if fish aren't real, then explain my fave YouTube fishing channel. Femboy Fishing. Probably soon to be Femgirl Fishing. You never really hear the term Femgirl. I suppose people just sort of expect girls to be feminine. Let's not get back onto that subject. But yes. T-Pago is a big fan of Femboy Fishing. I mean, fishing is... the fact that there's no scientific definition of fish doesn't prevent people from catching fish. Like, you can't go to a chip shop, order cod and chips, and then when they serve it to you, say, well, I'm sorry, but this fish don't actually exist, therefore I'm not paying for it. Like, that doesn't work. Hayley Snaily, thank you so much for the follow, and welcome in. To our little humble stream here where we're playing logic puzzles in theory. What we're actually mostly doing is chatting, but we are occasionally playing logic puzzles as well. Right, let me use a different colour than green for this. I need to put 4 mines into the green cells. There can only be 1 here, there can only be 1 here. So these 2 have to be free. That implies that this one is free, and then there's a mine here. So I can do that. Oh. What? Emma's logic isn't logicking. Narcissistic says, logic, we do that here? Well, evidently not. On the case I just did it wrong. Okay, I won't redo that level now. I will, anything I fail, I will redo eventually. But hello, Trans Crisis. Appropriate username, given the events of this week, I think. Hello, and thank you for the follow. That is very much appreciated. LT Bago says the birds aren't real. People are going to freak out when they find out that fish aren't real. So no, see, unlike fish, there is actually an agreed scientific definition of birds. There is a tree of life that we can point to and say, those are birds, those are not birds. Whereas you can't do that with fish. There are things like eels and things like that and lampreys, I think it's called, and things that are not related to other fish, but we call them fish. Because we basically end up using the term fish to mean something that doesn't have legs and swims in water. And there are obvious problems with that definition. Like the fact that it includes mammals, for a start. Logic, we do that here, and LT Bagger says Emma does, the rest of us not so much. You see, even Emma doesn't do logic very often. So this one's a bit different. The good news is that we do have diagonal adjacencies now, so I'm not going to accidentally fail because of muscle memory from Minesweeper. That's a nice little emote there, Hayley Snaily. Trans Crisis says, given the events of this week, I'm having more crises than usual. Yes, well, your username implies that your usual number of crises is greater than 0, which I think is the number of crises that should be happening. So I'm very sorry to hear that. And obviously, I mean, I don't know if you're in the UK. I'm in the UK. Not that the UK is the only place having problems with trans rights at the moment by a long stretch. Yeah, fortunately, I'm a Twitch streamer and I can come here and I have a community of people who I know are not transphobic bigots and I can hang out with them. It is... I cannot stress how much, how important it is for me that I have this community I can fall back on, and I don't really know what I'd do with myself if I didn't. So, yes, everybody here, I'm talking to all of you, not just any one person. I'm very grateful for all of it. Because, yeah, it's just good to have a group of people where I can go, yeah, these people get it. And I know these people get it because if they didn't get it, they wouldn't be here. Like, by definition, you wouldn't follow me if you were transphobic because you're like, ugh, trans person, I'm not watching them. Having said, people have followed me to try and troll in the past, but of course, you figure that out pretty quickly and then you just ban them and they go away. This is the problem with real life. Real life doesn't have a block button. If I could just point to somebody hassling me in real life and say /ban and they just poof out of existence, do you think the life would be so much easier? I mean, everybody would be poofed out of existence, but life would be easier. Haley Saley says it's a pretty shit week to be one of us. You are also one of us, Haley. I suppose I do have the transgender tag on my streams, but I do feel like a lot of trans people seem to find their way here. And I wonder how much of it is the tag and how much of it is just, well, you know, who else would be playing Temetsi on a Friday night? I'm sure there is an element of that. And I'm very grateful to have both of you here. You know, we are by no means exclusive. This stream is by no means exclusive to trans people or even exclusive to queer people. We have everybody here, and everybody is welcome. We obviously have a bigger than average congregation of queer people. Trans Crisis says, I'm going back home tomorrow. I'm on holiday in the Americas right now. Have you changed the gender marker on your passport? Because let's hope they let you back in the country if you have. Yeah, the passport, for context, the passport office in the UK currently allows you to change your gender marker on your passport just by providing medical evidence that you're transitioning. You don't need a GRC or anything like that. Under the law as it's now been interpreted, the passport office will have to stop doing that, otherwise they'll be breaking the law, because it does say sex on your passport, not gender. So it might be when I renew my passport that they want me to change it back to M. I will obviously try and fight that as far as I can. However, home is the UK. Oh yes, I do have a blowhigh. Here is my blowhigh. Blowhigh is soft and cuddly, and we love him. Everybody should have a blowhigh. Anyone who thinks that blowhigh is some sort of trans-exclusive thing, that is false. Blowhighs are for everyone, because everybody can appreciate things that are soft and cuddly. And if you do not have a blowhigh, they are available at your local IKEA. I am not in any way sponsored by IKEA. I am promoting blowhighs purely out of my love for them. Narcissistic says, grateful for you too, Emma. I needed this stream today. You've no idea. Well, I have some idea, but yes, I'm glad I could provide that for you. Since we've got a couple of new people in, I will actually just plonk an invite to my Discord down in chat, just in case anybody feels like joining. Again, it's not like a trans-specific Discord or anything. If anything, it's a botany Discord, because botany is my main interest outside of playing video games on the internet. So if you fancy looking at pretty flowers or sharing memes or whatever it is that we do, feel free to join. I think this one is safe on the grounds that there are 3 red ones, and one's here, and one's here. And then here, there can only be one here, so this one is a mine, which means those are empty. And then, again, yeah, the fact there's 3 means that's one. So, there we go. Okay. We did it. Okay, 3 remaining. One's there, one's there, one's there. So every other square is safe. We can reveal every other square. Ratmo says, I'm glad you're on TV. I mean, if you have a smart TV and you're watching me on there, then I am. I don't think I am otherwise. But yes. Last one has to be there. Haley Snaily says, transphobia is a disease of the soul. I think there's some truth to that, yes. Definitely. Oh, am I missing? Oh, I missed some chat. I missed Narcissistic saying my cats are going to be devastated that fish aren't real. Fish are very much real. Just for scientific purposes, they're not. But I don't think your cat is particularly interested in scientific analysis of fish. I think your cat is more interested in eating the fish. So it does not need to worry. Haley Snaily says the real life block button is called murder, and alas, it's illegal even if the other person's a real asshole. It's not quite the same thing. Like when you ban, if I ban someone from my channel, that doesn't remove them from the internet entirely. Like you might wish it did, but it doesn't. It prevents them from interacting with you. Like I can ban someone from my Discord or my stream, and it prevents them interacting with me. Doesn't prevent them from having their life and interacting with anyone else. So yeah, it's very much not the same as murder. It's like if I had a superpower where I could point to somebody who is annoying me and say, "Stop talking," and leave the room. You can come back in the room when I've left, but while I'm here, you're not to be here. Like, you can't do that in real life, but like, even if it's not just you, even if it's not a space that you control, like if I block someone on Twitch, I never see their messages, even if I'm in someone else's stream. I could be in a stream with 40 other viewers all chatting, and I wouldn't hear what the person I've blocked is saying. There's no equivalent of that in real life. You know, I can't go down the pub and only listen to the people who aren't transphobes speaking. I mean, it'd be quite quiet if I could. You know, I can't watch the news on TV and only hear the interviews with queer advocates and not the interviews with TERFs, which are taking up most of the airtime. Like, I have no choice but to expose myself to those people if I go out into the real world. And that's, so I'm very much not talking about merge, and I do want to make that clear, given the guidelines that Twitch has in place, that I'm not advocating for violent action. I'm advocating for the ability to cut someone out of your life, not to cut them out of their life. That's a different thing. Trans Crisis says, I got summoned through recommended streams. Interesting. Are you a fan of puzzle games like Temetsi? I don't know to what extent Twitch uses the tags for recommendations. Maybe it does. The self-sorting is very strong, says Ratmost. I agree. LT Bago says, I like the people in my computer that talk to me. Yes, I'm not actually in your computer, T-Bago. I know it may seem that way, but there are people here who've met me in real life and can confirm that I'm not just a figment of your imagination. I do like your RGB CPU cooler that can have images on, though. LT Bago recently did a bit of a hardware upgrade, and he did send me a picture of one of my emotes being displayed on his CPU cooler. So I was literally in his PC. Hello, Ferrin. Sorry, I'm behind with chat again. Right, come on, speedrun chat time. Hello, Ferrin, who says, hi, Emma, hi, chat. Since all fish are vertebrates and all vertebrates are, or are descended from fish, it is reasonable to say, in a taxonomic sense, that fish and vertebrates are the same group. Exactly, yeah. So when you say no such thing as a fish, what it means is, if you're trying to define fish scientifically, you either have to exclude things that we would call fish, or we have to include things like humans or bears that we would not consider fish. That's the problem. Thank you for clarifying that, though, Ferrin, and welcome in. And sorry if let me speedrun chat for a bit. Ellie says, I got my friend a blow-high pin when she came out as a coming out gift. Oh, that is so sweet. That is so sweet. This blow-high was... I mean, I came out during the COVID pandemic, and so it wasn't really a coming out because I wasn't allowed out the house anyway. Yeah, no, if obviously COVID was a horrible thing that killed millions of people, but at the same time, if it hadn't happened, I would probably not be trans now, because in the UK, in order to access trans healthcare, you have to have lived as your preferred gender for at least a year without any medical intervention and be socially transitioned, so the doctors will expect to see evidence through things like social media. If you're employed, then you expected to be transitioned at your workplace. My workplace at the time was a factory with a very outdated mindset, very male-dominated, very homophobic. There's absolutely no way I could have done that, but I managed to cheat the system by saying, yes, I have been living as a woman for a year. And it was true. It's just that that year was the year of the COVID lockdowns. I hadn't gone anywhere. And I was able to access treatment that way. Not a strategy that works for anybody newly transitioning now, unfortunately. Haley says, my other friend who's also trans joked they should have waited till becoming my friend before they came out. Flowers. Yes, I am a botanist in real life. There are a few consequences to that. One is that if you subscribe, I have a huge array of flower emotes that you can use. And another is that every stream we have a little botany segment where you can, for 1,000 channel points, you can choose any British wildflower, and I'll talk about it for 15-20 minutes. Today we actually talked about carnation, which is not a wildflower, but it is a garden plant. And the third thing is that for 10 channel points, you can redeem your flower of the day. Lots of streamers have the thing where you redeem it and it says you've redeemed this 74 times or whatever. You know how many streams you've been to. Yeah, like that. Except that I have a bot that remembers what flowers you've had and gives you a different wildflower every time. As a way to sort of encourage people to enjoy botany. Botany and dank cheese memes, says Debago. Now, hang on. Certain people in the channel are pushing the dank cheese memes, and it's not me. Right, oh dear. It's the return of the non-diagonally adjacent clues, so I have to pay attention here. because this doesn't work like normal. How do I make progress here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm an idiot. there's zero blues remaining. In other words, I can just click all the blues. Always helps to check up there first. Ben says, I hardly took pictures of flowers until I had Emma's Discord to share them. Yes, we do love sharing flowers in our Discord. Oh, wait, there's people in the Discord. Yeah, hang on. Let me... Sorry, because of, transphobes and stuff, in order to chat in my Discord, you have to have a role, which I will now give to the person who just joined. Add role... friend. There we go. Right. Whoever it was who just joined the Discord, you wouldn't have been able to see the chat channel where everybody has been saying hi to you, but now you can. So sorry about that. I was distracted by streaming. But are there cheese caves? Says Narcissistic. There are cheese caves. The traditional way to produce cheddar cheese is to age it in caves, specifically caves in cheddar in the Mendip Hills. And you can still buy cave-aged cheddar, at least in the UK. I don't know if you can buy it in other countries. But yes, there are absolutely cheese caves. The cave isn't made of cheese, but the cave contains cheese, which makes it a cheese cave by any reasonable definition. You're not on TV. You're one of the tiny people who live in my computer. Caves filled with cheese, houses made of cheese, just standard cheese. Yeah, they started this thing about my house being made of cheese. I don't know why. My house isn't made of cheese. Harry says, same. I have some of the cherry blossom taken a few years back, but any plant pictures I've taken more recently to the Discord. I actually share my plant pictures in several people's Discords. Not just my own. I think we can do this here to say that the 2 is that one and that one, so these are all safe. Yes. Yeah, so there's actually like 6 or 7 people who are sort of, I guess, they've subscribed to Plant Facts. They have a channel in their Discord for plant photos, and I like to share it in there. So, I've syndicated my plant photos. Haley Snaley says, I'd like to be able to ceaseless watcher people like in the final series of the Magnus Archives. Just look at them and say, ceaseless watcher, turn your gaze upon this wretched thing, and they cease to exist. Yeah, I don't want them to cease to exist. What I would like them to do is see the error of their ways and not be a transphobe. But if that's not possible, I'll settle for just, not having to ever interact with them. I'm fine with them continuing to exist. Maybe don't let them vote either. But beyond that, I'm happy to live and let live as long as they live and let live. If they let me live, I'll let them live. There's one group of people who's celebrating the death of another group of people, and it's not us who are doing it. I wouldn't advocate violent action either. You showed up in my live channels we think you'll like. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Think you'll find she's in my computer. Yeah, I definitely... The thing is, in the UK, we have a long and proud history of civil disobedience to further human rights. From the women's suffrage movement, get women the vote, from... workers taking strike action even in the face of violence from the business owners, to the Stonewall riots furthering queer rights. We have a long history of not violence, but civil disobedience to further, as activism to further human rights. But the problem is now, if as a trans person you try to engage in civil disobedience activism, even, just something silly and a little bit disruptive like Just Stop Oil did, for example, you will be sent to prison, and you'll be sent to a men's prison. But up until this week, it was discretionary. Prisons were allowed to use discretion. There were a couple of high-profile cases where people were sent to, trans women were sent to men's prisons, but especially in Scotland, they were able to use discretion. It is now the law that trans women prisoners have to be housed in male prisons. So you have to bear in mind that any prison sentence for anything you do, but especially activism, is effectively a death sentence if you're trans. And that's not good, obviously. Understatement of the century. So much as I would like to say be gay, do crimes, as the saying goes, as trans people, we have to hold ourselves to significantly higher law-abiding standards than the rest of the world, because the consequences for us are so much more severe, and it's a shame that it's that way. Don't make me put you back in there, says Debago. Oh, Narcissistic redeemed choose raid. Thank you, Narcissistic, for choosing raid. We are going to be live for another 3/4 of an hour or so, but if that person is still live when we do end, then I will go there. And if they're not, then I will save that raid for a future stream. So thank you for requesting that, Narcissistic. I don't think I follow that person, so I'll look them up when we're about to raid in. I'm using this for co-working, so redeeming now before I forget. Oh, Lady of Pawnee, hello. I don't think I've seen you here before. Who says, hi Emma, I've been lurking for a little while, but just need to know that just need to say that I love hearing you talk about your passion. Also, the speed at which you solve these puzzles is amazing. Thank you, Lady of Pawnee. I think I've seen you in other people's chats. I do recognise your name, so thank you for lurking here. I will say I'm really not solving these puzzles fast. I can solve these puzzles a lot faster than this because I'm occupied by chatting. I think I have in the past, I've played through the whole game in a day. So this is very slow by my standards. And also I keep chatting as a stalling tactic because I can't figure out how to continue the puzzle as well. But yes, I do love logic puzzles like this. And thank you for the kind words. And I'm glad you enjoy the botany. Mavis says, been lurking as feeling dizzy but really enjoying the company, so thank you. I'm so sorry to hear you're feeling dizzy, Mavis. I know your health has not been perfect lately, so I do hope you feel better soon. Right, oh god. The problem with Twitch is people keep chatting. It's I want to catch up on chat, but chat have other ideas, and they keep making more messages. Ratmost, yeah, pig, chicken, and bird. I don't know if there's any way to group mammals and fish. No, birds. Fish evolved first, then birds, then mammals. I think the order was fish, reptiles, birds, mammals. The order that they evolved. So yeah, to include all fish, you have to include mammals. Haley Snaily, thank you for redeeming your first ever flower of the day, an imperforate St. John's wort. Which is a funny name. Yes, there's perforate St. John's wort, which is called that because the leaves have tiny little holes in. And then there's imperforate St. John's wort, which is called that because the leaves don't have holes in. Which is, normal. Most plants don't have holes in. Normally my bot automatically gives out the flower and Harry doesn't have to type that command in, but today the bot is apparently on strike, demanding better working conditions. This is the future under AI, I guess. No, there's no AI in my bot. I wrote it myself, which is why it's not working, no doubt. Best Alhuno, hello, Best Alhuno, who says Best Emma, sending you a big warm hug. Thank you, Alhuno, and thank you for redeeming your flower. Narcissistic says we have cheese caves here, but it's a much more diabolical thing. You mean it's not where you mature your finest cave-aged cheddar? Plant Facts magazine delivered by Tiny Plant Vines. Thank you for subscribing to Plant Facts. If you wish to unsubscribe to Plant Facts, please name all the plants. Sounds like something a person who lives in a cheese house. My house is not made of cheese. Can you believe somehow my chat got this idea that my house is made of cheese, and the rumor was started by Harry, who has visited me, has been to this very house, and knows it's not actually made of cheese. He'll be at it all evening. Be gay, be safe. We will do crimes in the meantime. Thank you, Ratmost, for volunteering to do crimes on our behalf. I'm not sure which crimes you have in mind. Trespassing in the sewers, perhaps, as a rat. I think this proposed temporary motto could use some refining. I would agree. Sacred Riki, hello, so good to see you. Hi, Emma. Auntie Bago says, if I be gay and throw Molotovs while wearing a fancy suit, can that be crime brulee? Oh. I mean, being gay is fine. Being gay isn't illegal. It's only being trans that's illegal. It's not illegal to be trans. It's just illegal to be trans and then try and actually be a woman. Trans men, no change. Trans woman, not a woman. Because, gender equality. Which is why we ruled one way and not the other. Feel free to be gay and throw on a fancy suit, though, T-Bagger. I'm not going to stop you in that regard. The cheese caves here, says Narcissistic, are where the government stores the overproduced cheese they made from the milk they overproduced for profit, or something like that. Yeah, there was a problem similar to that with the EU, I think back in the 70s, maybe 80s. When they first introduced agricultural subsidies on a EU-wide scale, they kind of got the balance off a bit, and they ended up with a lot of overproduction, which, it wasn't ideal, but I think people overreacted to it. It led to a lot of anti-EU sentiment, which I think probably ultimately contributed to us leaving the EU, which was disastrous for our economy. And I think you have to look at it in context, which is that, for almost the entirety of human history, food shortages were a regular thing, famines were a regular thing, and then suddenly we live in a world where the biggest problem we have is that we made too much food. And I think people need to take a step back and realize how fortunate they are that they're in a position that they can criticize the fact that we are making too much food. Is it a problem that we're making too much food? Absolutely. It wastes energy, wastes food, it wastes money. It's absolutely a problem. But not so much now. Like now, I think certainly Europe has got a much better grip on agricultural subsidies and export controls and stuff. America is just going haywire and doing its own thing with tariffs, and eggs for some reason are expensive. I don't care, but you've got to have some perspective and say, okay, for the first time in history, it's a food surplus we're worried about and not a shortage. But yeah, it's still a problem. I supported the rumor but did not start it, says Harry. Yeah, a likely story. Harry says, my BS fact was that your house was accurately modelled in Botany Manor. Yeah, notably, Harry, Botany Manor house not made of cheese. Narcissistic says, I think that argument would hold more weight if people could afford to buy groceries. And there's still cheese in there, distribute the cheese. Yes, absolutely people should be able to afford to buy groceries, and the government should support them if they can't. I've caught up with chat. Right, I can't put it off any longer. I've got to actually solve this puzzle. Right, what am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, only one of these. Oh, only one of these, so one of those. So this is clear, I think. And then those two. and then that one. Oh. No, not that one. Oh, Emma, you idiot. Right, I'm going to do it properly. See what I mean when I say this game is hard? Everyone's like, oh, Emma, you're good at logic puzzles. Well, Emma, not good at logic puzzles. Logic puzzles are better at Emma than Emma is at logic puzzles. Right, we decided one of those two, so those are clear. And then what did we say? Oh, we said that, therefore not that, therefore that, and that. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's, I keep missing, that's complete, so that's empty. That completes that, so those, and then that. That completes all the purples. We've got 0 purples left now. So we open all of these. 3. 1 but 2, so that, and not those. 2 and 1, so that. 4 here, we've got 2. It can't be both of those, so it's that one and one of those. So all of these are safe. 3 here. No, we don't know yet. 3, 4, 5, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then one of those, so not that one. 3, 5, and okay, there's one. There's only 2 mines left in total, and one of them is yellow. But one gonna be one of these, so the only other one can be this yellow one. So that one, and then these are safe, and then it's one of these two, so that's safe and that's safe. So it's that one. There we go. That wasn't too bad. That puzzle is very Ace Pride. I approve. Yeah, I don't think there's any intentional encoding of queer identity flags into this game, but there's enough of them that if you pick random colors for levels, they show up soon enough. And I don't use the ace flag to identify myself, because I think the fact I'm trans is much more impactful than the fact I'm ace. And I'm not aero ace. I'm not even 100% asexual, I don't think, and I'm definitely not aromantic. I don't use the ace flag to describe my own identity, but I do really like the colour scheme of it. I love how those colours go together. Don't worry, Harry. There will be no explosions. Hopefully. How do we even start this? We start this by observing that there are only 2 light blues. There has to be one here, and there has to be one here. Can I get a colour that's... I'm always conscious of... I suppose the one downside to having different colour schemes all the time, I'm conscious of people not necessarily being able to see the colours very well. And I don't know what's the most visible colour sometimes. That's probably not very visible. I'll go back to green. I swear I can't get the default green colour now. Oh well. Go with that. So, but what I'm getting at is there's one here and there's one here, and that's the 2. So there can't be any in any of these. And actually these have to be. So that's how we get started. So then there's one there, one there. Oh, and then now we've marked all the brown ones, so there's no more brown. Wait, what? Oh, thought we'd marked all the brown ones. What? These are all... Yeah, okay, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong there? We correctly deduced that these were not. So we know there's one... There's one here and one here. So there has to be one there, and there has to be one there. Then we deduce that, then we deduce that, we deduce that, and that, and that. So now there's only one brown left, and that one brown is in here. So these have to all be empty. Oh, they are. Okay. Oh, I must have misclicked. Sorry. See, even Emma's brain can't handle the logic. Okay. So yeah, there's one in there. There's 3 dark blues left. So there's one, and there's one. So all the other dark blues are safe. And that should be it. Yes. Okay. Narcissistic says, I'm the I like jokes but don't poke me ace. Yes. So I think I'm fine with physical intimacy, even some things that could be considered sexual. But the threshold for, like, I would have to like someone a lot to get to that stage. Like, the idea of casual sex to me just makes no sense whatsoever. Like, why would you want that physical intimacy with someone you have no emotional connection with? Now, I completely understand. I'm not saying, like, I'm not approving of casual sex. I completely understand normal people have a sex drive and their body is telling them to do that because evolution has programmed their brain to make more people. That's why we exist. So, like, I'm not saying that I don't understand it, but I don't feel it personally. But I'm fine with, like, physical intimacy with somebody that I'm close to. And I think that does set me apart from a lot of asexual people. Not all of them, obviously. So yeah, I don't tend to use that term really to describe myself. But also, like, I've never had sex and I don't ever want to. So that kind of sounds quite asexual, doesn't it? And it's, I think I have difficulty separating romantic feelings from platonic feelings. Like, to me, I like someone. Like, I might like someone a bit, or I might like someone a lot. And if I like someone a lot, I start imagining, what if I spent my whole life with this person? Which seems pretty romantic to me. But is it? I don't know. So yeah, I think to most people, like, there are platonic friendships and then there's romantic, and like they're two separate groups of people. And people can cross from one to the other, but people can think, oh, this person is a very good friend, I've hung out with them for years, etc., and not have any romantic interest. Whereas, certainly, at least if they're female, I think there's a certain point where if I like someone enough, I'm going to start having these feelings of, I want to be with this person always. They're amazing. And there's very, very few people that I have actually felt that about. And it's I don't see some attractive woman who I don't know walking past and think, oh, I want to have sex with that woman. Like, I don't think that. But I would still say I'm attracted to women. So, it's difficult to explain, okay? It's complicated. Altibago says, I also don't understand the one night stand thing, but I'm pan. Narcissistic says, I've had a lot of it. I prefer chocolate cake. Yeah, I think asexuals often use food as an analogy, which I get. And I think there's definitely people who, like, I think the way I would describe it would be to say, maybe sex is good, but pizza is also good. And if ordering a pizza took as much effort as finding a sexual partner, we probably wouldn't bother eating pizza. Like, the effort required is way out of proportion to the reward, when you could just sit at home and eat yummy foods all day. So I think there's definitely that flavour of asexual. It's like, it's not that I don't get why people would want to do that. It's just that the effort required, like, our entire society is structured around doing this thing, and it seems to be out of all proportion. There's definitely that flavour of asexuality out there, I think. Narcissistic says, "No, I get it. I'm the polar opposite. I have the attraction, the act is messy, and the sensory nightmare." Yes, I can definitely see for people who have sensory issues that is a problem. And yeah, I mean, there are just so many problems, especially if, for example, you are female and you live somewhere that doesn't have women's reproductive rights. You know, mentioning no places in particular. You know, eating a pizza does not come with the same risks. The worst possible outcome is food poisoning, which is not quite as bad. Okay, I must be missing something here. Oh, I think I can use the blue number. There's 4 blue mines remaining. One of them's there, one of them's there, one of them's there. I don't. The thing is, if there was a number here, I could immediately solve it with that, but they've intentionally put a question mark here to make it awkward. I think I need to use the 7. So we say 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, which means there can only be 1 here. Which means this has to be 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's what we have to do. So that's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's clear. So you see that quite often with these levels, there's like one trick you have to spot to be able to proceed. And if you don't spot that one trick, you can be searching for quite a long time. For this 3 now, we have all 3. And then, yeah, see, quite often as soon as you crack one little bit of the puzzle, the rest of it just sort of unfolds in a giant pile of logic. It just solves itself. Narcissistic says, "Luckily, my partner's reaction to seeing a spicy scene the first time was a horrified stare, followed by, 'Why is there licking involved?'" I mean, again, I get why. Like, I completely get why. Something I have wondered a lot when I'm overthinking these things is if I ever did get into a romantic relationship, which frankly seems pretty unlikely at this stage. Because not only the whole ace thing, but also the whole dating while trans thing, which is an entire minefield on top of that. But if by some miracle I did get into a romantic relationship, would I be okay with doing sexual stuff, you know, just if the other person wanted to, like, because I don't think I'd hate it to the extent that narcissistic would with like the sensory stuff. It's just, you know, I have no interest in doing that myself. And I think realistically the answer is, if doing those things was important to that person, then I just probably wouldn't end up in a romantic relationship with them in the first place. Because, you know, it just wouldn't work. But I think in principle, you know, like if they said, well, I don't want to do those things ever, then I would be fine with that. And if they said, you know, can we just try it occasionally, I think I'd be okay with that too. But it's difficult to know, you know. I mean, I don't think I have genital dysphoria as bad as a lot of trans people have it. Like, I don't think that would be an obstacle. Like, I don't like the situation I have, but it's not my main source of gender dysphoria. Things like my hair and my height and just my general appearance. Yeah, my body shape, the width of my shoulders and my hips and so on. That's where my gender dysphoria comes from. And the fact that there was testosterone in my body as well was a huge thing. Rather than anything directly sexually related. LD Mango says doing stuff to please people is how non-furries end up in fursuits. I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they want to do. Hello, Mike Claroni. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good Easter weekend. Haven't seen you for a while. I mean, I don't really hang out with Dragon Girl anymore. I don't know if you've been hanging out there. Ratmo says, mostly when I see attractive people, I want to keep looking at them. Yeah, so it's very difficult because, you know, I am attracted to women. But I think most of what I experience, I think when I was younger, I mistook gender envy for attraction. Like, I find myself looking at someone and thinking, oh my god, she's so pretty. Oh my god, look at her hair. I wish I had hair like that. I wish I could get away with wearing those clothes. Oh, look how pretty they are. That's what I'm mostly thinking. Not, oh, look at her arse or whatever, I want to have sex with that. That's those thoughts aren't in my mind, but I'm definitely looking at them and thinking I really like what I'm looking at. So it's, but there's a very there's a definite difference between what I'm thinking versus what a straight cis man is thinking. And yeah, it took quite a long time when I was younger and raised in an environment where I wasn't aware that trans people was the thing that you could be, to realise that what I was feeling was basically just gender envy. Narcissistic says, when you click, you tend to just find a natural rhythm that works. Listen, it was a weird couple of years. Don't come for me like that. Mike Claroni says, it's actually pretty terrible, but I won't bring the mood down. Just wanted to say hi. Well, hi, Mike Claroni, and I'm glad you're here. Yeah, it's been a terrible week for me as well, as we have already discussed at length. Why am I stuck on this level now? I keep going around in circles thinking there must be somewhere I can progress. Like, one of these two is a mine, one of these two is, one of those 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 two is. Like, there's like a chain here. Like, if I knew this was a mine, then that would be clear, that would be mine, that would be clear, that would be mine. But conversely, if I knew this was clear, then that would be a mine, that would be clear, that would be a mine, that would be clear. So it's like alternating, but I don't know which direction it's alternating. Here I know that there's one there, 2 and 3. So there's the fourth one is one of those two. Wondering. There must be some interaction here that I can use to progress, I think. Because, yeah, then one of those two, one of those two, one of those two, one of those two as well. And one of those two. But there's always different places on the board where I know that it's one of two places. Have I got enough? Actually, can I account for 6 yellow ones? There's a yellow one there. So 1... 2, 3. Oh, actually, that's just a... Yeah, okay. This is where I'm going to go. There's actually just 2 adjacents up 3, which I didn't spot. Okay, that's how you progress. Wow, that's very cleverly hidden because I didn't even spot that that was possible. Okay, that opens up all of this. Batmos says, I'm not trans, but I do have some body dysphoria. Well, yes. In your mind, you're a rat, but you look in the mirror and you see a human person, and you think, no, this isn't right. Then you have to be a VTuber to as your escape from reality. But you are best rat, so it's okay. Narcissistic says it never ceases to tickle me when Emma drops a little swear. I try not to swear too much because I know some people prefer streams without swearing. And I think people who want the streamer to swear constantly are not going to be watching me because I don't swear constantly. And people who are okay with it but don't mind are probably quite happy to listen to me not swear. So I try not to do it often, but you know, sometimes there are situations that warrant it. And then maybe I do. But yes, I'm sorry to hear you had a bad week, Macaroni. We appreciate you being here. 1, 2, 3. So there's one there. So that's a mine. That completes the 4, 3, 4. 1, 2. Yeah. The biggest problem with these levels is just trying to count the number of neighbors that the cells have. Ren says, as a gay man, I think I had the opposite realization, initially thinking it was admiration and or envy, only later to realize it was attraction. Yeah, this is the thing. So for me, I realized quite early on in life, I just didn't like men at all. Like, I don't like being one. I don't like masculinity. I don't like male culture. I certainly don't like toxic masculinity. I don't like looking at men. I don't like behaving like a man. There's just no aspect of being a man that I like. And that doesn't mean that I think it's bad. I need to make that very clear. I'm not one of these anti-male feminists or anything. I'm not a man hater. I recognise that men are pretty important and the population wouldn't exist without them. I just have no desire to either be one or be with one. Like, none of that appeals to me. I don't like men's fashion. I don't like the smell of men's deodorant. I just don't like any of it. I don't like stereotypical male hobbies. I don't like most. Like, again, to be honest, I hate the gender binary as a whole, but if I had to choose one side of the gender binary or the other, it's going to be the female side without question. So I hate the whole gender binary, but I particularly hate the male part of the gender binary. And that's not the same thing as hating men. I fully realise that many of them also feel trapped by the gender binary, and that I should be understanding of that and not hostile towards them. I fully understand that, and I fully understand how important it is to understand that. But yeah, absolutely none of it interests me in any way, shape, or form. Okay. This one was actually fairly easy, but it's a square level with diagonal neighbors counting, which is just like normal Minesweeper, basically. And I think the normal Minesweeper levels are the easiest ones in this game, because I've played a lot of normal Minesweeper, so I see the patterns almost immediately. Okay, we might have to do a bit of counting here. So there's one dark blue, 2 light blue, and then 2 more grey to make the 5. The 2 grey have to be here and here. So these grey ones are all safe. And then the one remaining blue one has to be in here to complete the 3. So that's empty. That's how we do it. Hooray. LT Bagger says, I'm the kind of person who's very comfortable with my sexuality and will give anything a go once. Yeah, exactly, yes. And I respect people like that a lot. And this is the thing, if somebody is open-minded and, they consider these things, they think, okay, I'll be open-minded. Here are the options. Here is, everything that being queer has to offer. And I've considered it all. And I think, no. I think I'm a straight cis man, and that's what I like. I want to follow the stereotypical male gender role. That's fine, If you've considered it, you think, no, that's not for me. But I'm not going to judge queer people who decide it's not for them. This is the thing. Rather than the people who have been force-fed the idea by society that stereotypical masculinity is the only option for them, or who have decided, for whatever reason, that not only is that the option for them, but that's what they should enforce on everyone else. That's what I don't accept. But yeah, if you decide you want to be ordinary, boring, cisgendered straight man, fine, yeah, it's lucky. Like, you are lucky because it is easy to do that, and you have been fortunate in the genetics that you have ended up with, where that is the sort of person you are, and you're going to have an easier time of life, and that's that's good. I want people to have an easy time of life. So yeah, it's I don't harbour any resentment towards them. Ren says, Ren is referring, sorry, I'm behind with chat again. Ren is referring to this level design and saying the spade symbol is giving me Balatro cravings. Yeah, I still haven't played Balatro. I don't know if I ever will. I'm a little worried I'll get hooked on it and not want to play anything else. I might play it. I'll probably play it off stream if I do. Ratmo says, I respect and admire that outlook, referring to Tibago, saying very comfortable with things that go. Narcissistic says, I love what a diverse but yet cohesive group this chat is. Well, we're queer people, narcissistic. I mean, queer people is inherently a very varied group. Like, queer people encompass people who are completely sex obsessed versus people who want absolutely no sex at all. People who are obsessed with men versus people who hate men and are obsessed with women. There are complete polar opposites within the queer community. There are people who are completely normal gender presenting but have a different sexuality. There are people who have a weird sexuality and a weird gender presentation. There are people who have a normal sexuality but different gender presentation. Like, the one thing holding queer people together is the fact that the majority of the population doesn't seem to respect our right to exist. That's really the only thing we have in common. But it's a strong enough force to bring us all together. And I am eternally grateful to the early pioneers of the LGBT movement, who, with, as it turns out, substantial foresight, realised, in a time when even gay rights were not a thing yet, that the only way that trans people and other genderqueer people were ever going to make any progress was to band together with gay, queer, like there's genderqueer, so I guess it's sexual queer. I don't know what the word is for queer people who are queer because of their sexuality, not their gender. For those two, like, on the face of it, gender and sexuality are different things, but the realisation that those two groups would have to be cohesive, because trans people are such a small percentage of the population that there's no way they'd be able to advocate for themselves otherwise. I am very grateful to the people that had the foresight to do that, and to realise that LGBT would have to be the acronym and so on. Because that wasn't a given in the early days of gay activism, certainly. Okay, am I stuck on a puzzle again? There's going to be 5 in this column. We've got 3 already. And there's going to be 2 in this column. So in total, we've got to put 4 into these. 2 here and 2 here. So we've got to put a total of 4 into the grey cells here. One of them's got to go in here somewhere. And 2 of them have got to go adjacent to this 2. So there's 2 in there. So that leaves 1 here. And the fact that there's 1 here, but this is a 3, implies that both these have to be mines. So that. And then because there's 1 here and this is a 2, that means there's 1 here, which means that one is empty. Yeah, we are getting to advanced logic now. I never swear, says Narcissistic. Well, you know, people can swear if they want, people can not swear if they want. Ratmo says exactly right. For real though, I would like to leave my boobs at home most days. Yeah, I am very grateful. I mean, for me, the main point of hormone replacement was not to have testosterone in my system. I'm grateful for having a bit of shape to my chest. It definitely, you know, gives me gender euphoria. I don't particularly want them to be enormous, and they're not. And I am quite grateful when I see women with enormous breasts who are having back problems because of it. I'm very grateful that that's not a position I'm in. And yes, I would also like to leave them at home if I had large ones, but since I need every little bit of help I can get to try and look feminine, I would certainly not choose to leave mine at home. I would have them with me at all times because I need that help. Mine are only very, very small anyway. LT Bago says, it's fine, I hear all the swears for the day anytime Sarah with Stars streams. She does sometimes a little bit sweary. Swearer with Stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's 1 here and there's 1 here, and then that completes the 3. So these 2 are empty. Ratmo says maybe break them out for formal occasions or Halloween. Yeah, I mean if you want to a formal occasion where you want to get all dressed up pretty, obviously you would have them then. But you know, just day to day, it's not necessary. LT Bago says WTF is wrong with Lynx Africa. I mean, calling it Africa, it's cultural appropriation. That's a joke. I'm not being serious. Okay, I think I can complete this 3 because there's going to be 1 here. There's 1 here, and then the third one. This 2, the remaining 1 is there. So there's only 1 more for that 2 here, which means this, and this all free, I think. There's always a tense moment when I'm clicking things I think are free, and I'm half expecting it to go boom. No, Emma, you idiot, you got it wrong. And I'm always slightly relieved when it doesn't. Oh, I can actually make progress on this side as well. This 4, but there's a 2 in this column, and there's 1 here, so there can only be 1 more here. So there has to be 1 there, complete the 4, and then those. Actually, there's lots of progress we can make here now. We've got the 6 as well. Let me switch red shot better on these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means there can only be 1 here. Which means that's 1. And also that's empty. And then we get to do stuff. Hello Vibrator! Thank you so much for redeeming your flower of the day, which was a rough hawkbit. Insert joke about hawkbits liking it rough here. Is that a deodorant scent? Yeah. So it's notorious in the UK, Ratmost, for being popular with teenage boys. So yeah, it's like you're not going to impress your partner if you're using it, kind of thing. I have a fun fact. I have only ever used female antiperspirant products, or they shouldn't be gendered, but they are. Okay, I've only ever used antiperspirants marketed at females. I've never used spray deodorants of any kind or anything marketed to men, even when I was still closeted. So that's a fun fact. Might be stuck on this side now. I think I need to solve the rest of the left side and then use the blue number to solve that. That's what I think I need to do. I think I've tried most things once as narcissistic. Ratmos says, wait, I'm having a memory. Are Lynx and Axe the same product under different regional names? Yes, they are. Tibago says, there are only two things I hate. Intolerance of other people and their cultures and the Dutch. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people casually throwing around xenophobia these days after Brexit, and it does put me off. I know T-Bagos just making a joke there, but I feel like casual xenophobia is more common than it used to be. Like people talking about hating the French as if that's just a normal thing that British people do. I don't hate French people. They have better trans rights than us, for a start. Sorry, I'm trying to alternate between puzzling and reading chat so I don't get too far behind. I suspect you're quoting something. Yeah, the intolerance of people in Dutch. I am indeed the third Austin Powers movie. To be fair, a good 75% of the things I say are quote or reference to something. Yes, and some of the time I get the reference, but surprisingly not very often. I don't consume a lot of media, honestly, at least in comparison to T-Bago, so there's quite often things I don't get. Ratmo says, I have to get ready for work. Please be gay, be safe, and it's very good to see you, Emma, and everyone. It was so good to see you as well, best rat. Most bestest rat. Thank you so much for dropping by. Okay, I can actually solve this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one is definitely a mine. And then because one of these is, that means this one isn't. And then because there are 2 blue ones left and exactly one of those is a mine, that means exactly one of those is a mine, which completes this column. Therefore, none of these are. And I think we just win now, hopefully. Okay, yeah, there's 2 total and 2 blue, so those are both empty. And then there we go, hooray! Yeah, I mean, well, we're just coming up to 4 hours in our stream now, and we've only done this much of the game. And bear in mind, obviously, the levels start easier and get harder. So, these end levels take much longer than these early levels. So, if I do stream this whole game, and there's no guarantee I will, but if I do stream this whole game, it's going to be several streams. So we'll see. I mean, I think today's stream was a success, but that was mostly down to the 4 raids I got, more so, and all the chatting we had. I don't think the game I played today really had any bearing on the stream whatsoever. Although it did inspire a few other people to try it. I'm going to see if I can get to level 30, just to end on a round number of levels before I raid out, because it's the weekend tomorrow. I'm not in any hurry to finish. If anyone has to head off, that's fine. Ratmos didn't get the play on words on Vibe Raider's name. No, that's I like that one. I always appreciate when a Twitch username has a pun in it. I've seen some very clever ones out there. It always makes me smile. El Tibago says, I have a weird memory for quotes and lyrics. I haven't seen that movie for 20 plus years. Yeah, I suppose I can see that. My brother was always a bit like that. The ability to quote anything and everything at any given moment. See how much easier it is to solve hexagon levels. Truly, hexagons are the bestigons. I mean, literally, it is easier to solve them because there are fewer possibilities for a hexagon compared to a square or a triangle. So there's less you have to consider. I think this level is actually just easier. They do a relatively good job with the difficulty curve in these levels. But yeah, look, we've just got 0 purple and 0 red left. So we can just click all the remaining coloured ones. There we go. We'll finish. Yeah, we'll do one more and then we'll say we've done 30 and that's the end of the stream. And we'll raid Narcissistic's preferred raid target if they're still live, which I'm sure they are. They'd only just started when I checked before. Tibago posting Discord beams. I was just checking my Discord pings. Even while watching the stream. Can't take a break from the memes. The memes must flow. This is an interesting one. It's sort of a maze. In fact, the level's even called Maze 21. So you start with just this corner being revealed and you have to slowly work your way around. What I was able to do there is because there's only... You notice there's only one of each colour. So as soon as I knew where one of the green mines was, I was able to reveal everything else. Again, as soon as I can place a pink one or a... well, in fact, yeah, I have just placed a blue one. But as soon as I place a pink one, I can reveal all the pinks as well. I place a pink one here? Not quite. Ah, now I can place... Yeah, there's definitely a pink one here. So there's no pink one there or there. And you see that opens up. So the level is very cleverly constructed. I think this is what most sets this game apart from the original Minesweeper and a lot of its clones. Is the original Minesweeper is just randomly generated levels. Sometimes you get really nice levels that solve in a pleasing way, and sometimes you just get stuck having to guess at the end and inevitably guessing wrong and losing. All the levels in this game are handmade, and they're handmade by someone who is very good at handmaking this type of game. A lot of the later levels, especially, there's you actually feel good when you figure out the logic, and that's a good sign that it's well designed. And this one in particular, like structuring it like that, there's an obvious structure to the level. There's a progression of first you figure out the green, then you figure out the blue, then you figure out the pink, then you figure out all of that remaining bits. What did we miss? Oh, this this square here, and then yeah, just to finish it off, yep, there's a square that we can say is definitely a mine. Okay, should I go back and... Okay, I'm going to go back and redo 19 just because it's bugging me that it's not perfect. I already have like the achievement for solving them all without guessing, obviously, because I've played the game before. But for the sake of not being bad at the game on stream, I will solve them all. So the way we did this, there was one there, one there. All the rest of these lines. Right, it was this green bit we screwed up before. So what did I do wrong here? We knew that there's only one grey one which has to be here, so we revealed that square. Then we have to place 4 greens. We can only place 1 green there. We can only place 1 green there. So we have to place greens here and here. And then we can't put a mine here, because if we put a mine here, there's no way to put one here. So that's free. Yeah, okay, yeah, this level was easy. I just messed up before. There we go. So the first 30 done without any mistakes, essentially. That meme had a tenuous link to the stream topic, said T-Bago. Yeah, they usually do. Anyway, yeah, we will end things there for today. Thank you, Blowhigh, for keeping me company. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Got hair. Long hair is lovely for many reasons, but it getting stuck in your mouth is not one of those reasons. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you in particular to everybody who followed today. We had quite a few new follows. My follow count is back above 650. Let's see if it's still there when we next stream. Thank you to everybody who did redeems today. Mavis, Narcissistic T-Bago. Thank you, Harry, for the bits. Kaiser Podge, Alex, LT Bago. Thank you to Tofu, if you're still here, for those 5 gift subs. That was incredibly generous. And thank you to all 4 raiders we had today. Thank you, Rooney. Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, 53 New Wave. And thank you, Ophelia6277. I don't think I've ever had 4 raids in the same stream before. That is quite special. I tend to be a recipient of raids from certain people in our community because I am one of the latest streamers in our, like, people like Rooney and Ophelia tend to stream mid-afternoon, early evening, and I'm always late evening. So there are certain people I always get raids from and I'm not really able to raid back. And I am grateful for them doing that. Catcher says, bye and have a great rest of your day. Altibago says, thank for the stream, was fun times. And Best Alex, still here, says, thank you for the stream. Yes, if you could stick around just one more second, we are going to do a raid. We are going to do a raid to Champrel, as requested by Narcissistic, with the channel points. So Champrel is playing Fall Guys, and yes, I don't think I've come across them before because I'm not following them, but I'll definitely follow them in a moment when we raid. And their stream title is King of Bad Decisions, so that's what we have to look forward to. Let me get that raid going now. Thank you, Harry, for the best command. T-Bago is also familiar with this streamer and says Champ is good people. I am glad to hear that. I always approve of people being good people. We are just going to do a thing with a thing and a thing. Raid, this person. Raid has been created. If you would like to put a message in chat to help promote our community when we raid in, please do. I'm going to put a message here that subscribers can use. If you're not subscribed, use any emotes you like. Use someone else's emotes. Use your own emotes if you have some. If you're not sure what to use, there are some dancing dinosaurs. You can always use them. I am going to be back tomorrow because I promised I would do 2 streams this week, and I don't want to break that promise because I do want to get back to doing streams after several weeks of not. It's not going to be Tametsi again. It will be something else. I will let you know on my Discord. It will probably just be the 2 streams this weekend, so not a Sunday stream, but hopefully in a few weeks' time I can build back up to doing 3 because I do like to do more streams. So yes, I hope to see you all again soon, and until then, thank you all for watching, and bye for now.